The fairy house's people are here 5. Oh! The green-robed man looked at him in surprise. Wang Jiang, do you have something we don't know then? Wang Jiang, who was being served by Mu Qing-song, smiled triumphantly, as if he's enjoying the attention from everyone inside the room. That's a given. Didn't I tell you I met someone from the fairy house before when I journeyed around for training? Guess what? That person told me the identity of Bai Yan's husband. Identity? The green-robed man was stunned and got curious. He is the king of the demon realm. Do you get it now? The reasoning for that phenomenon of all animals bowing towards the Luhua kingdom is because of Bai Yan's son, not that Bai Ruo's runt. Wang Jiang's attitude was full of disdain when mentioning Bai Ruo's name. Mu Qing-song's face became more pale than ever, causing that smile to disappear altogether. Song is the king of the demon realm? Now it all made sense on why Song would be so dismissive of herself. What grand beauty that man hadn't seen. Why should he bother with herself, who's only the mistress of the Music Valley? Yet, one thing remains unforgivable in this slut's eye, and that was Bai Yan's fortune. Why should someone like that stand above herself? Also, you don't know this, but can you guess why the 3 powers would all of a sudden have celestial rank masters among their roster? This secret was told to me by that friend from the fairy house. It's because of Bai Yan. She created a special drug called the Divine God Dan pill for those at a bottleneck. Wang Jiang saw the shocked gazes from all around and felt elated. So, it's only to be expected for such an outstanding woman to marry the king of the demon realm. Clack! The wine jug slipped out of Mu Qing-song's hand and caused the liquid to splash all over her customer's robe. Slut, how dare you! In his rage after being dirted, Wang Jiang jumped up and slaps the lady across the face, sending her crashing down like a fallen leaf. Mu Qing-song's cheek instantly got red and swollen from the impact. But more than that crashing sound was the laughter coming out of her mouth. She's mad, laughing like a crazy lunatic. There's infinite resentment and hatred in those eyes. Bang! The green-robed man also joined his friend and stomped at the hysteric lady. But no matter what the two did to her, Mu Qing-song didn't stop and got louder and louder. What now? Wang Jiang grew a little flustered. He secretly ran out to have fun tonight without his wife knowing. If he drives this woman crazy, then it would blow up. By then, his wife would definitely find out, and he would be finished. Quick, go find the nanny to fix this mess. The green-robed man had quick wits and fled for the main hall downstairs. Meanwhile, back on the floor, Mu Qing-song continued to cry and laugh like a crazy lunatic. She had never lost herself like this before. Not when Song abolished her strength. Nor did she collapse when Bai Yan threw her into this brothel to servicemen. But now, after hearing the grand achievements of that hateful woman, Mu Qing-song finally crumbled. She's totally lost. Bai Yan, if there's a next life, if I get another chance, I will definitely steal all of your happiness. I will take everything that you hold dear. The fairy house's people are here 6. Why can Bai Yan be so happy? And I be so wronged? It's not fair. This world is so unfair. So, if there is a second life, I will definitely take away her happiness and leave her with nothing. Next day, the morning light was just beginning when Bai Yan slowly opened the door and allowed the brightness to land on her gorgeous face. Little Zhuan, so early? She only needed a glance to see the waiting teenager outside. Uh-huh. Nangong Zhuan smiles faintly as he replies, I was afraid Shifu would wait too long, so I came at sunrise. Since you are here, then I will hand over these 2 books to you. Bai Yan took out 2 books from her sleeve and offered it over to the teen. Nangong Zhuan, me and Xiachen will wait for you. I hope you can live up to my hopes and find your place among us within 10 years as you promised. With your talent, I know you can do it. Shifu, I will not disappoint. The young man's clear eyes were firm as he vowed in a calm, decisive tone. Bai Yan didn't say anything more and silently patted her student on the shoulder before bypassing the teen. She said all that she needed. Any more would be pointless. In the distance, the mother could see her twins saying their farewell to Lan Xiaoyan in the courtyard. However, the mother didn't find her eldest by Xiachen. How come Xiachen isn't around? She asks after looking around. Mother, Ling Yan's eyes lit up and threw her tiny body onto the woman's arm. Big brother said he's going to say goodbye to his chubby friend before coming back. That brought a smile to Bai Yan's face. She understood why her boy would do that. After all, in these lands, the chubby kid was one of the few friends since coming into this world. Then we'll wait for him, then we'll leave. Luhua Kingdom. The morning street was quiet, and there was no hustle and bustle like in the afternoon. The chubby stood at the door of the Wang's home, while speaking to the steam bun. Boss, are you really going to leave again? You only came back yesterday. Why are you in such a hurry to leave? Because my mother still needs to find my father. Bai Xiachen lowers his eyes with a moody note. He and Bai Yin didn't know where Song went, so it's a given they would go look for him. The chubby friend almost cried. Boss, when will we meet again? Bai Xiachen's frown tightens as he thought about the question. Then taking out a token from his sleeve, the demon prince hands his friend the item to show what it was. The token was red all over with the word prince engraved on one side. This is identity token my father made for me before. You can use this to enter the demon realm unhindered in the future. If I'm not around and you miss me, you can use this to visit me instead. Bai Xiachen's eyes twinkled with light when facing this precious friend of his. You will always be my best friend in this life. The doors to the demon realm will always be open to you and Nangong Zhuan, provided that you don't hit on my little sister. Also, you're not allowed to touch Dragoni either. The chubby instantly pouted at the last bit. Boss, aren't you too overbearing? Sister Ling Yin is fine since she's our sister. But Dragoni isn't even blood related to you. How come I can't go near her? I think Dragoni is very cute so. Bai Xiachen's face suddenly darkened, his little fists clenching into a ball. Wang Xiaoping, if you dare get any funny ideas about Dragoni, then I will beat you. The fairy house's people are here 7. Wang Xiaoping became frightened and couldn't understand why his boss would show such a huge reaction. He's both baffled and surprised along his chubby face, hurrying to take a step back. Boss, I was only joking, really just joking. How can I ever think about hitting on boss's little sister? She is your sister, so she's also my sister. Even if I got 100 balls, I still wouldn't dare. Ahem. Bai Xiachen softly huffs a grunt as he raises his chin proudly. Remember my words, if you go to the demon realm, you are not allowed to have any ideas about Dragoni. Otherwise I will really beat you. I treat you like a brother, but you want to be my brother-in-law? Dream on. I wouldn't dare, I wouldn't dare. Wang Xiaoping trembled and gulped. Bai Xiachen's angry appearance was much more terrifying than his father's. His father was at best a little cruel, but Bai Xiachen, there's an overpowering pressure oozing out of his body which left him breathless. Under this kind of coercion, how could he not submit? That's right. The steam bun pats his chubby friend's shoulder like a fine adult. Wang Xiaoping, don't say I didn't warn you ahead of time. To be my brother-in-law, there is a lot of hurdles to overcome. Even if you do pass the trials, there is my little brother and old man. So, even with your chubby skin, you won't be able to withstand their abuse. You will only eat a bitter melon in the end. Wang Xiaoping scratches the back of his head. Then what about her wanting to marry someone else? How are you going to stop her? Bai Xiachen was silent and fell into deep thought. If Ling Yan wants it, if she likes the guy, I may not necessarily stop it. But, if a stinking boy dares to pester her, I will break their legs. That said, the full might of his domineering attitude explodes, revealing the king in the making. And why do you only talk about Sister Ling Yan? Boss, what about Sister Dragoni? Can I pursue Dragoni in the future? Scram! Bai Xiachen kicks his friend in the butt angrily, all the while making sure he didn't exert too much force. The chubby got all sad and aggrieved in the face. Bai Xiachen, didn't you say that as long as your sister likes it, you won't stop them? Why do you believe Sister Dragoni won't pursue someone in the future? I believe in Dragoni's taste, she will definitely not look at you. But I can lose weight and become excellent for her sake, boss. Oh, alright, I'll come clean. Since the first time I met Sister Dragoni at the fairy house, I've taken a liking to her. The chubby rubs his nose in shy embarrassment. Wang! Xiao! Peng! Bai Xiachen gritted his teeth and crunched that fist. From now on when your old man beats you, I will also join him and beat you. I will never allow this guy to go after Dragoni. Boss, you're overreacting here. Can it be? You also like Sister Dragoni. She's not your biological sister, so it's within expectation. I won't blame you for that, boss. In regards to men and women, the chubby was older than his friend, so it's normal for him to understand more. The steam bun snorted in reply. Dragoni is my sister, of course I like her too. The fairy house's people are here. 8. That's not what I mean, it's the kind of liking that your father and your mother have. Wang Xiaoping got urgent and began scratching his ears and cheek frantically. The boss is usually such a smart person. How can he be so confused about emotional matters? Wang Xiaoping. Bai Xiaochen frowned. You are only a small child. Quit talking about lovey-dovey things all day. My mother said it before, early love is wrong, and incest love is also wrong. I regard Dragoni as my sister and only my sister, not to mention. I only want to keep my mother and sister company. I don't have time for a wife. Going at ease over that explanation, the chubby grins with glee. Boss, if you don't want to marry Dragoni, then I will give it a go. After all, I can't take my own brother's woman, but since you don't. Seeing that Bai Xiaochen was ready to kick him again, the chubby hurriedly dodged away and cried a grievance. Boss, did you learn this habit of kicking people from your mother? I am wrong. I am really wrong. I will never hit on Dragoni again. Please spare me. Retracting his leg after that plea, the steam bun huffs and puffs as he spoke. Wang Xiaoping, I'm serious. If in the future you miss me, then you can visit me in the demon realm. I need to leave now. He raises his hand and pats the chubby on the shoulder. As long as you don't hit on my two sisters, then we will be good brothers for life. That instantly caused the chubby to beam with hope in his eyes. The wording of two sisters didn't escape his head. That's to say, if there's a third sister, then it's free game. Boss, to tell you the truth, I really will miss you. Wang Xiaoping wipes some of the tears brewing outward. Promise me you will come see me if you have the time. We haven't seen each other for several years already. I will when everything is done. I will definitely come back to see you with my mother. Also, I haven't finished the snacks mother made me recently. Here, I'll give them to you. Bai Xiaochen reluctantly took out the bottle he prepared for his friend. Without hesitation, the chubby eagerly snatched the present from his boss. Old Pa, look, my boss gave me these damn pills. What? As soon as Wang Diqiu heard this, he quickly ran out of the estate and locked onto the bottle held in his son's hand. Immediately, his eyes radiated a joyous glow. Quick, let me see what these can do. As soon as he grabbed the bottle into his possession, the man shamelessly ran back into the home, without giving his son a chance to protest. Wang Xiaoping was dumbfounded. These were obviously given to me by my boss. How did I get robbed by my old man? Father, don't eat it all, leave me some. In his haste, the chubby didn't bother to say goodbye to the steam bun, and twaddled his round Baelish body into the home to chase after Wang Diqiu. As a result, Bai Xiaochen was left hanging in the cool breeze, looking all sad and pitiful. What did he say about missing me? Only a bottle of pills, and he's already shown his wagging tail? Pursing his lip, the steam bun hung his head in a dejected manner to leave. So it's true, a kid's word is not reliable. From now on I won't believe Wang Xiaoping's lies again. At this moment, Bai Xiaochen seems to have forgotten that he was just a child as well. The fairy house's people are here. 9. People came and went on along the street like usual in the day, but this time around their vision was accompanied by the image of Bai Xiaochen walking past. Fortunately, the boy had been gone for a few years, thus his face resulted in him not being recognized due to his growth. Otherwise, who knows how long it would take before he made it back to his mother's side. Outside the lawn house, Bai Yin was already waiting there at the doorsteps when the steam bun finally appeared within her view. With a brilliant smile, the demon queen warmly welcomes her eldest with a hug. Did you say farewell to Wang Xiaoping? Bai Xiaochen lightly pursed his lips and nodded. Aha! You're not happy? Bai Yin furrowed her brows and continued to ask. I'm going to miss this place. Bai Xiaochen raised his tearful eyes. Mother, there's too many acquaintances here. There's grandchious, grandfathers, aunties, and uncles. There's so many people that I'm going to miss. Bai Yin understood where her boy was coming from and gently comforted him with a pat on the back. In the future, when all the dust has settled, I will accompany you back here, okay? She and Bai Xiachen were different after all. Bai Yan's originally from Earth. Whether it be the Holy Land or Lu Hua Kingdom, it's not the homeland where she grew up. But the steam bun was from these parts. He grew up in the Holy Land and spent a good while in the Lu Hua Kingdom. It's unsurprising that he's holding attachment to the human world. Sure enough, Bai Xiachen's eyes finally lit up as he donned a brilliant smile. Okay, when father returns, we will resolve all the issues with those enemies. Afterward, I want to stay at the Holy Land for a while before returning here. Bai Yin smiled lightly and spoke in a soft cooing voice. Then let's hurry back to the demon realm. Maybe your father is already waiting for us at home. The steam bun nodded obediently as he snuggled intimately into Bai Yan's arms. Her bodily scent alone was enough to make him particularly relaxed, so this was his comfort zone. Truth is, anywhere you are, mother, is where my home is. Bai Yan's heart trembled without a noticeable trace, but her eyes were already swelling with a thin layer of fluid. She couldn't deny being emotionally moved by that last comment. Before I knew it, he's already up to my waist in height. He's grown so much. Mistress. Just as Bai Yan lets go of her boy, Hua Luo and Fang Yufeng also rushed over from the crowd and stood in obedience to the demon queen. After I went back yesterday, I have selected a group of excellent talents to leave with us today. Hua Luo, the loyal female subordinate, charmingly reports. True to her name, she has a smile like a flower. Also, that Mu Qing song of the Music Valley I mentioned yesterday, she's died last night. Mu Qing song's dead. Bai Yan's expression was indifferent to the name. I understand. Since you've both brought the people you want, then we will depart now. Mu Qing song's death was of no importance to the demon queen. That woman was no more than a blip in her life, hardly worthy to even remember the lady's name, if not for her subordinate bringing it back up again. Strangely enough though, why would that person suddenly die after her visit? Grandfather. Bai Yin slowly turned around and looked at the gathered members of the lawn house behind themselves. Big cousin, second cousin Shaoran, I'm leaving now. All of you must take care of yourselves until we meet again. I don't know when that will be, but that day won't be too far off. Hell Domain 1. Old Madame Lan's heart remains reluctant to let go after the reassurance. This grandmother still had countless words to say. You go. Sighing after only mustering up these 2 words. You have things you must do. It's already good enough that you were willing to see us at such a time when you're so busy. Take care. Bai Yin looked deeply at the relatives behind her, before slowly turning away for the sunlight with her children in tow. Demon Realm. The sky remains a blood-colored scene as always, giving this world a strange yet enchanting vibe to the uninitiated. Welcome home, Queen, Crown Prince, Princess, Second Prince. The guards at the palace gate immediately kneeled and offered their respect to the family. Has Deedsong returned yet? Bai Yin asks after groaning for a second of hesitation. No, Your Highness, the king hasn't returned yet after your departure. The demon guard says with a strong voice of admiration. Growing quiet, the demon queen raises her head towards the crimson-colored sky with a longing look. He hasn't come back yet. Involuntarily, the corners of her lips revealed a bitter shape as gloom gradually formed overhead. Mother! Bai Xiachen subconsciously sensed the dampened mood and grabbed his mother's hand. Nothing will happen to father, and I will protect you in father's stead. Bai Yan's fingers lightly stroked her eldest's hair. Don't worry about me, sweetie. I believe in your father too. Let's go inside, I'm sure you're all tired. Okay. Bai Xiachen obediently swung that hand in a jovial manner after that. Demon Mountain, a place perennially shrouded in white light after its inception. Right now a particular lady was sitting at the peak looking bored and in deep thought. Suzaku. Singy the Azure Dragon suddenly appeared behind her and sat down as well. Is there something bothering you of late? Suzaku shook her head slightly and turned to the woman behind herself. Even after such a long time, she had not yet gotten used to the fact that Azure Dragon had become a female like herself. I'm wondering if I should tell our mistress where the king has gone. Gently pursing her lips, those eyes are filled with sorrow. You know where the king went? Xing Yi's face flashed a trace of surprise. Since you know, then why didn't you tell mistress? Suzaka shook her head and smiled bitterly. The place where the king went is too dangerous. His Majesty has the body of a demon, so he may be able to make it through that difficult road with his sturdy body. But mistress is a human. I fear she might not be able to bear it. Also, the king warned me before leaving that I'm not allowed to tell mistress about this. I have no choice. Perhaps because of the deception and concealment from Bai Yan, Suzaka's look became more and more guilty. Xing Yi, do you think I should tell her? If I really don't say and something happens to the king, what would mistress do? She won't ever forgive me. Hell Domain 2. Xing Yi's heart shook as her fist tightened into a ball. Inhaling deeply, the dragon lady had to take a moment to calm herself. So you knew where the king went? The place where the king went. It is a domain, but not the kind you are used to. There are no countless strong beings in there, so there's no danger involved in that aspect. However, the passage through it is extremely harsh. Suzaka looks up to meet her companion's gaze, those eyes showing an unmistakable fear. This was the first time Xing Yi ever seen the phoenix make such an expression. Suzaku had always been calm and charming, with the occasional domineering attitude similar to their mistress, but never was there fear. So what your view, Suzaku? Will the king be able to make it through the passage and find what he needs? I don't know. She shakes her head. I just know that those who walk that path will definitely see the most horrid of nightmares inside their heart. Not only that, the effects of that passage will magnify this terror to the limit. If they don't overcome this, the person can never make it out and die in there. Suzaka's face had gotten a little pale, due to the mere thought of Bai Yan possibly going through such a trial. More importantly, the person who created this domain is the ancestor of our demon realm. That demon held a deep hatred for humankind, because a human woman stole her beloved man. If one of our kin goes through, then it's still bearable on our physical body, but if mistress attempts the feat, the strain is unimaginable. That's why the king threatened me before he left. His Majesty doesn't want mistress chasing after him. Now Xing Yi finally understood why her friend would be so scared of that place. If the likes of themselves still had the chance of perishing merely by entering the passage, what are the odds of Bai Yan ever making it through? Obviously slim to none. What are we going to do? Xing Yi's expression sank. If the queen finds out about it, she would definitely. Suddenly, the dragon lady's voice stopped as she jolted around to stare at the oncoming figure from below the peak. Suzaku came back to her senses first, and quickly got up from the rock she was lying on. When did the queen appear? Why didn't I sense anything? Say, Suzaku, Xing Yi, what are you hiding from me? Bai Yan's lips curved upwards into a smirk, but that smile only made the two in question pour out a layer of cold sweat. How much did mistress hear? Suzaku. Bai Yan narrowed her eyes in at the source and got a shiver as response. I'll give you another chance to confess. Where did Deet Song go? Suzaka's face turned deathly pale as cold sweat flowed down the corner of her forehead. Mistress, I can't say. If she had said it, her mistress would have desperately chased after her husband. By then she might never return. Won't say. A cold glint appeared in Bai Yan's eyes. Suzaku, although I haven't remembered everything yet in the past life, but I do know you've been following me since you were born. So what am I to you? Are you going to not listen to even my words? Suzaka stumbled backwards, her teeth clattering, due to the nervous wreck that was her heart. Hell Domain 3. Even if you don't say, I will still go find Deet Song. Regardless of the place, regardless of the time, I will search every corner of the multiverse to find him. Bai Yan raised her eyes slightly and stared deeply into the Phoenix woman's gaze. Are you sure you want to waste my time like this? Or do you not believe I can find him on my own? Mistress, please don't ask me, Suzaka cried out quickly. I really can't tell you. Plus, the creator of that place has a deep hatred for mankind. If a human go, then it's certain death. Bai Yan pricked her lips into a snarling sneer over the danger. Did you forget something? Aside from being a human, I'm also the queen of the demon realm, the wife of Deet Song. Every time I am in danger, it is always my husband who disregards the danger and protect me from the threat. This time, it's my turn to protect him. Suzaku, tell me where that place this instant. I'm ordering you. Watching Bai Yin walk closer and closer towards herself, Suzaku's heart flew into endless panic. Turning for help from the dragon lady next to herself, she pleaded with those eyes like a puppy. Mistress, the king will certainly be all right. Xingyi was just about to speak up as well when Bai Yan's footing stumbled to a halt. Without signal, the demon queen coughs out a mouthful of blood and scared the daylights out of the two. Mistress! Mistress! Suzaku and Xingyi exclaimed in horror, their faces anxious and frantic. Bai Yan's hand squeezed her own chest until it started hurting. Then closing her eyes, the woman suddenly discovered something shocking. Her connection with Di Song has been broken. In order to prevent her from escaping his side, Di Song forcibly signed a contract with her back then. They've already broke it once due to a misunderstanding before, so the feeling was not new. This was definitely what happened. The contract is gone, Bai Yin says with deathly white complexion. The connection between me and Di Song is gone. Suzaku's eyes widened in shock. How is it possible? Who can break the contract created by the king? Impossible, absolutely impossible. She shook her head in panic, those legs retreating like an unhinged person who had the world crash over her head. If something does happen to the king, what would happen to the mistress? She will be sad beyond measure. Suzaku! Bai Yin lifted Suzaku's collar and confronted her subordinate. Even up to this point, are you still going to remain silent? The phoenix woman fell into a daze in that instant. Watching that furious face, her enchanted complexion turned green as those lips quivered. Where the king went? It's the hell domain. Because the domain is like hell itself. Us demons will face a lot of difficulties as well. For humans you will be tortured beyond belief, both physically and mentally. Only a few ever made it out of the hell domain. Tell me, how do you get to this hell domain? The corners of her mouth were still covered with blood, but the light in her eyes was full of anger and anxiety. The divine lord who created up the hell domain back then is a demon here, so it's within the demon realm. Mistress, can I go with you? It's too dangerous, I can't let mistress go alone. I'm coming too. Xingyi shot over and yelled. Hell domain 4. You two stay in the demon realm and watch over everyone. I alone am enough to head into the hell domain. If the danger posed by the place was so great that even Di Song couldn't handle, then there's no point in bringing others along. They wouldn't be able to help, which mean unnecessary casualties. So, this time she was going to go alone. But, no, it's an order. Bai Yan's voice was loud and authoritative. Wiping the blood from the corner of her mouth, she turns to Suzaku. Take me to the entrance of that hell domain now. Afterward, return and watch over everyone. I believe with the 4 of you and the demon elders, no one will be able to threaten you guys to the point it's unmanageable. Suzaku's body trembled, her face gradually growing solemn and pained. Yes, mistress, I will definitely protect the little ones in your absence. Also, the phoenix lady pauses like she's sobbing. Mistress must bring back the king and return to us safely. Bai Yin didn't say much more since her heart was a total mess after the connection with her husband was gone. Hell domain. As the name suggests, a cold blast of wind hit the demon queen in the face the moment she stepped through the portal. It's bone-chilling to the point even her current strength was barely enough to keep her from freezing over. I wonder where Di Song is. Bai Yin lowered her eyes, staring down at the white expanse of the world around. Then an idea hit her like spark. Suzaku said the only way to make it through is by walking. If Di Song is still waiting for me, I will find him no matter the difficulty of the road up ahead. SCZ. One step. That's all that was needed to feel something sharp scraping against her soul. It's at a spiritual level. Therefore no shoe could deny this pain. Then came the rain as if on cue. These droplets of water approached her in piercing fashion. It's almost enough to break through her defenses and ripple holes into her flesh. Bai Yin naturally fell into shock by the magnitude of danger this passage possessed. The ground scraped her feet, the temperature cold enough to freeze, and the rain were bullets that wanted to poke holes into her. Without delay, she promptly drew her Godslayer and began repelling anything she could. Sadly, there's no chance she would be able to stop all of the droplets with a mere sword. Before long, her whole figure had become a bloodied mess. Not lethal, but the surface layer of the skin had become roughed up hard. As the complexion grew worse due to the excessive blood loss, Bai Yan's movement grew slower and slower with each passing minute. Then it dawned on her. Trying to protect herself like this was pointless. The droplets would cut her skin, yes, but it's not enough to break through her actual flesh and bone if she continued to put up resistance with her energy. Therefore, after a second of deliberation, the demon queen withdrew her godslayer and trekked forward. No armor, no weapon, simply herself. Bai Yan felt so tired and hurt during this arduous journey. She doesn't know how long she's been walking, nor the time of day. One thing's for sure though, if not for the alchemic healing elixirs in her possession, there would be no way she could have done this and died from the pain alone. It explains why Suzaku and Ditsong would be hesitant to tell her about this hell domain. It's not somewhere a human should come ever. Hell Domain 5. Even Bai Yan didn't know how long she had been gone from her family. It felt like centuries slow. And then it happened during her low moments. Instead of the dark raining environment of ice, she saw a light up ahead. Looking surprised, the demon queen subconsciously covered her eyes to adjust to this change. Surely but slowly, she trudged forward despite the wrong feeling she had about this light source that's similar to a rising dawn. For one thing, the beaming sunlight was too red to be normal. And like she suspected, the second she stepped out of the raining bullets, the suspicion was confirmed by what she saw. Ahead was a sea of fire. The whole ground burned with molten lava to pave her next path. Shuddering inwardly at the concept of this cruel passage, the creator of this domain has a sick personality. First it was ice, and now it's fire? Closing her eyes, she recalls back to her man's evil and roguish appearance to reaffirm that conviction. Slowly forming a smirk. Ditsong, wait for me. I will definitely find you and bring you home. Everyone is still waiting for us at home. After muttering herself, she didn't hesitate, and lifted her now bare feet to cross this flaming sea. SSSSCZ. The sharp searing pain hit her hard, sending Bai Yan's entire figure into a pyre of heat. Whatever skin she had left before was gone, leaving this woman with nothing but bone and open flesh. True to its name, this hell domain was dishing out punishment worthy of the real deal. Who could survive being burned alive like this? No normal human could. If Bai Yan wasn't a powerful being herself, she would have turned to ash in the first second. Stumbling and swaying like a ghoul, Bai Yan's awareness was degrading faster than ever. Before the raining bullets and ice were already bad enough, but this had gone beyond simple cruelty. Then right as she's about to fall and perish, a surge of unwillingness swelled up from within. Physically and mentally, she was done, drained and depleted, but willpower had always been her strong suit. Knowing her own failure was unbearable than anything in this world. Gritting her teeth, Bai Yan's ghoulish body continued to shakily crawl forward. She could no longer walk, but continuing like an animal wasn't beyond her pride, if it meant saving her husband. Of course, this method won't last either. Thankfully not all was lost. Realizing she still had some elixirs left in her storage ring, the woman promptly summoned one out to sip through the jaws, due to her lips being incinerated. I mustn't give up, I mustn't stop. For him, going through ice and fire is nothing. Time passed like an eternity in this second trial, for there's no sensation of time anymore. When will this end? Will I ever see Ditsong again? Her conviction was firm, but crawling for so long left Bai Yan with a hinge of doubt that anyone would have. What if her body had already been destroyed, and only her soul remains? She wouldn't know with her current condition. Feeling the fear creeping into her bones, the woman crawled even faster, thus expending her energy further. Then right as her view was about to fade into a blur, the sea of flames disappeared as well like a broken clock. Everything simply stopped. Hell Domain 6. Hot. So hot. Bai Yan awoke to this burning heat despite having just left the sea of fire. Why do I still feel hot? Her eyelashes fluttered as her consciousness slowly came back to reality. Uncomfortable, she wiggled around wanting to move, but found her arms and legs tied firmly to a pillar. Her whole body had been chained to this thing and couldn't move. Kill her, kill this woman, lest she harm our celestial realm in the future. There was a cacophony of noises coming from below. Bai Yin lowered her and stared at the crowd showing at her from below. The last strand of days instantly dispersing once she got a better look. Wasn't I supposed to be in the hell domain? Why am I back in the celestial realm? Moreover, everything in front of her was more of a déjà vu. It's like she had experienced this all before. Do you have any last words to give? A gloomy and indifferent voice came from the side. Turning her head slight, Bai Yan's eyes were instantly welcomed by the familiar face that made her expression darken. Keeper Ling? You're supposed to be dead. Why are you still here? Keeper Ling was obviously dead. She killed the old guy with her own 2 hands. Therefore it didn't make sense. None of this made sense. And this scene, a thought she could recall everything in clarity, but she's heard of this mentioned before. 1,000 years ago, she was robbed of her amulet All Heaven by Yin Ruoxi, the old witch who framed her for being the disaster that's going to befall the celestial realm. Because of that, these keepers of the celestial palace abandoned her and planned to execute her for crimes that she never committed. Impudent wench. Keeper Ling's voice was cold and unkind. Lass, I have a message to tell you so you can die in peace. Today is going to be the marriage date between Ruoxi and the celestial lord. He has promised to take her hand, so you can forget about help coming. Also, your grandfather is also unconscious due to our interference. There's no one left to save you anymore. Bai Yan's heart ached the moment that news fell over her head. She didn't have any feelings for Chewy God, but this feeling was obviously from her previous self. Though unwilling to admit it, the bond she shared with that man wasn't weak. It may not be love, but it's definitely at the level of a family member or older brother. What does his marriage have to do with me? Bai Yin ticks her lips into a snarling smirk like she didn't care. Surprised and taken aback, Keeper Ling thought his message would destroy any life left in this girl. After all, she had always tailed the celestial lord from years past. It only made sense that it would hurt. Why the indifference now? Lass, you can stop feigning indifference already. I know how much emotions you have for the celestial lord. Your lies cannot fool me. It's too bad. We may have admired and liked you due to your talent, but you're going to be the scourge of this world. We cannot overlook the threat you pose. Keeper Ling's frosted gaze then fell upon Bai Yan's face like he's ready to begin the execution. So, don't blame us for being ruthless. If you want to blame, then blame your own destiny. Nightmare 1. Her face was slightly cold, and her gaze swept over everyone present with a sneering smirk. Is it because I forgot this scene? That's why I have to repeat it again to remember? Burn her. The noise below came again, and the flames surrounding herself answered that call and burned brighter and hotter. In light of the encroaching flames, Bai Yan's appearance doesn't yield or submit. In retrospect, the fire from the hell domain hurts way more. This meant nothing after all she's gone through. Lass, do you have any last words to confess? Or do you have a message for your grandfather? Keeper Xian, the kindest of the bunch, sighs helplessly, his appearance reluctant and apologetic. Towards Bai Yan, he's always had a good opinion until recent times. But for the sake of the celestial realm, he too was willing to sacrifice this one person for peace. It's a pity that such a genius, if it weren't for the disaster she would bring to the celestial realm in the future, we would really be reluctant to execute her. Bai Yan quietly chuckles at their shamelessness. I will return again in the future, so what message is there to say? You scums better treat my grandfather well. Otherwise, when I return in my next life, I will have you all die in the celestial realm. None will ever know peace. Keeper Xian's pupils contracted sharply, his heart shuddering profusely at that proclaim and vow. So it's true, they weren't wrong about you. You're the disaster of the celestial realm. Humph, this proves we are right in our decision today. The fault is your own for what's happening. Keeper Ling Yin roars in anger, his face red and burning. Already enveloped in fire by this point, Bai Yan doesn't scream nor plead, only smiling brilliant like their words were jokes. Boom. Suddenly, a powerful force blasted over from the side, causing the demon queen's body to go stiff as she turned to peer at the source. It's a face of anxiety, a worried look, and an all too familiar face she's been yearning to see. Silver hair, purple robed, and an air of dominance that could overshadow any competition in this world. The Demon King makes his entrance. Di Song. Tears blurred Bai Yan's eyes as she wept at that stunning contour. She wanted to be in his arms. And that's exactly what the man did. Blowing apart the chains binding the woman, the Demon King swept his wife into a princess hold and glared down at the crowd, who dared to harm the love of his life. Today, who dares to touch my woman? The man's tone was domineering, coming down with an anvil that smashed into everyone's already shocked heart. Demon King, how dare you come to our celestial realm? Keeper Ling narrowed his eyes in and sneered. Our two realms are inherently hostile to one another. Now that you dare to barge in here, then you can forget about leaving. Execute them both together. Nightmare 2. Ha ha ha. Di Song laughed wildly, his red lips rising into a mocking grin at Keeper Ling and his peers in front. With only you. His voice was dismissive, and the taunts were unabashedly echoing across the open field. The contempt in the man's eyes enraged Keeper Ling, who was already quite irate to begin with. Yes, with only me. Huh. I've been quite patient with the celestial realm, due to her sake. And now you're so pompous that you want to trap me? No one can stop me, not you, and not the useless garbages behind you. If I want to protect someone and take them with me, nothing can stop me. The man's hand tightly wrapped around Bai Yan's waist as he softly whispered into her ear. Don't worry, no one can hurt you anymore. No one can hurt you anymore. Bai Yan's heart couldn't help but tremble a few times, as she rested her eyes with comfort knowing he's around. Whether in a past life or in this life, this man would always protect her. There were many masters of the celestial realm present today, due to the summoning, and they all wanted their heads. Knowing this, Bai Yan wanted to help, but was promptly stopped by Di Song's unyielding and protective hand. He's wholeheartedly intent on doing this alone while she rests. And like that, the Demon King carved a path of blood as he walked out of the execution grounds in broad daylight. Whomever foolish enough to attack him was promptly slain in a single strike, and those cowardly enough to back off didn't do a thing. A true war god, a demonic and undefeatable being of glory. Right now on this day, Di Song makes his stand to stomp in the faces of these scums of the celestial realm. For a millennium, they would never forget the humiliation of this battle. It's also one of the reasons they never dared to invade and annihilate the Demon Kin. They feared this man to the core. Keeper Xian, let's go up together and kill them. Keeper Ling's expression grew increasingly more ugly, as their forces gradually diminished under that onslaught. He's ready to explode and decides to act in person by mustering up his powers for a powerful strike. This was the opening he's been waiting for by throwing his subordinates in there despite knowing their actions were futile. The grumpy keeper wanted Di Song to turn sideways and be distracted, which was exactly when he attacked. Unfortunately, that too was a foolish idea. Knowing these shameless scums would never fight fairly, the Demon King always kept an eye out for his back in case a sneak attack came. Sure enough, in the second where Keeper Ling came at him, Di Song swung around and sent a whirlwind kick in counter. A devastating kick versus a simple palm strike. Anyone could tell which had the further reach and power. Slamming into the flaming pillar that had been used to execute Bai Yan, Keeper Ling throws up a mouthful of blood before looking up in shock. You! How can this be? When did the king of the demons have such strength? Girl, we're going. Di Song's hands tighten around Bai Yan's injured waist, so that she doesn't fall off by mistake, before flying off into the horizon. Those who wanted to stop him didn't dare to do anything. They saw exactly what happened to Keeper Ling. If that guy got defeated with a single kick, what chance would they have? No one likes to die, and no one likes to die for nothing. Keeper Ling, Keeper Xian, and the others quickly ran over to help their peer up. What's going on? When did Di Song's strength increase again? Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, the grumpy old man darkens in the face. He likely used a forbidden technique to temporarily raise his strength. It won't last long, and afterwards he will be weakened. Send our people out and pursue them. They can't get far like this. Damn that Deetsong, accursed demons. Why are those beasts always butting heads with us everywhere? I will never let them go. Inside a valley, Deetsong crashed into the ground after losing elevation from the sky. He couldn't fly anymore like the grumpy keeper suspected. What's more, he also got injured in the side during the exchange with the old scum there despite winning with his kick. You don't need to be afraid, I'll protect you. Bai Yan's heart quivered with pain at the condition he's in. Deetsong, you're injured? Nightmare 3. Injured? Do you think those weaklings can hurt me? Deetsong sneered, his eyes full of disdain. Bai Yan's heart became more and more uncomfortable. You think I can't see it? Did you use any method to forcibly increase your strength? You suffered a backlash, didn't you? Otherwise, with your character, you wouldn't have left with me so quickly, without making a mess first. Deetsong was stunned, looking down at the girl in front of himself. There's a mist of confusion that he couldn't quite pinpoint. Bai Yan took a few steps back with a hint of guiltiness. This guy, did he notice something? For a long time, the Demon King didn't move and simply stood there. Then suddenly, he chuckled softly before pinching Bai Yan's nose like a boyfriend spoiling their girlfriend. Girl, when did you know me so well? If I didn't know better, I would think you're probably. You didn't get changed out with someone else by those from the celestial realm, did you? Slightly upset at the very idea that she would be a doppelganger, the lady stomps her foot and looked away. And why not? She's not exactly the same person from 1,000 years ago, so her personality would naturally be different. If Deetsong grows suspicious, then that's normal. Unexpectedly, instead of being alarmed, the man abruptly pulled her hand over and placed it along his chest where she could hear his thumping heartbeat. Without you, I would be dead here. Do you hear how much it's dancing because of you? How can I not know you are my Yenner? Bai Yan threw herself into the Demon King's arm right then there. To be confessed with such heartfelt words would make any lady flutter, let alone a version of her husband from way past. It's making her feel like a virgin maiden that's being wooed all over again. Girl, today is Chewy God's marriage date. Don't you want to go stop it? Deetsong got quite awkward and stiff by the hug, shaking her head. I'm not going. Why? Deetsong's eyes pricked up in surprise. Although I have always wanted you to be my woman, but I also don't want to take advantage of this moment just to win you over. I have my pride, and my pride won't allow me to stoop to such low means. If you think I want you to do this as repayment, then you don't need to. No, that's not it. You are injured, and those people will likely be waiting for us if we go. Why should we willingly jump into their trap? Bai Yan lifts a finger to stop him from speaking by placing it on his lip, flailing his arms up like a clueless dote. Deetsong didn't expect this act from the girl, who always behaved so proper and decent before. It's sending him up into the clouds to the level where he forgot the pain in his bloodied waist. Silly lass. Deetsong eventually came back to his senses and smiled. Those people can't do anything to me. Can it be? You don't believe in my strength? If I can take you out then, that means I can also protect you. From out of the blue, Bai Yan bursts out into a laughing fit. Her smile was bright and shining, causing the whole area to glow due to her existence. Oh Deetsong, you are such a silly guy, you know. Chewy God gave me up for the sake of the celestial realm. Why would I care about someone like that anymore after that? He can go ahead and marry whoever he likes. She wraps her hand around his, that face looking up with longing. I, on the other hand, want to marry you. Nightmare 4. The Bai Yan of 1,000 years ago may not have made the promise to Deetsong so quickly, but she wasn't from 1,000 years ago. She's from the modern age. They have experienced so much turbulence already. What was there to hesitate about? At that moment, the haze in Deetsong's heart seems to be blown away by the wind, and a beam of sunlight shone through from the clouds to warm his whole existence. Girl, is your word serious? Deetsong. Bai Yan lets go of his lip, her expression looking solemn. Whether in this life or in the next, you are my only husband. If we can't survive in this life, I will wait until our next. You must wait for me. Even if you forget me, no one is allowed to be around you until I show up. Grinning like a fool, The Demon King pulls the lady into his arms and leans down to peck her on the lips. This was his first kiss, so he didn't dare to be aggressive. He treasures her. There's no way he would allow his own misgivings to hurt her. Girl, you will be my only woman, in this life and the lives to come. No matter how long I have to wait, it can only be you. Time flies. What followed could only be described as a dream in Bai Yan's eyes. Those from the Celestial Palace did not want to let them go, so they sent numerous masters to hunt them down. Even Chu Igad eventually gave chase with his own people with the plan of bringing the woman back. Of course, Di Song and the 4 sacred beasts protected her like history ordained. And like history dictated, they all died at the hands of the Celestial Palace. She had seen these things once already, but now she's actually able to experience it herself. It's so heart-wrenching that she wanted to rip her own soul out, but fate wouldn't allow that. In the end, Bai Yan could only helplessly watch them from the sidelines. These things, like a nightmare, replayed over and over again in her mind in a never-ending loop. She wanted to wake up from this nightmare, but every time she awoke, she was by Di Song's side again. Even though the lady knew what would come and happen next, nothing ever changes. Such a feeling of powerlessness was torturing. It's beyond cruel. Girl, what's wrong? When she awoke again in this new loop, Di Song was already beside her with a worried face and hugging her shivering body. Tell me what happened. Is it because of what happened to Azure Dragon and them? Di Song, tell me everything that happened is a nightmare. Please tell me it's all fake and not true? Bai Yan's body curled closer to the man's chest. She didn't want this to continue and pleased. Bai Yan was no fool. Suzaku already told her the Hell Domain would cause her to go through nightmares. Unless she finds a way out, she would never be able to leave again. Yet, despite knowing this fact, she felt trapped and powerless to do anything aside from weeping and acting like a damsel in distress. Nightmare 5. Yena, what are you talking about? Why can't I understand? Di Song frowns and embraces his wife's hand to reassure her. Tears flowing down her face, Bai Yan's eyes looks up with pain and misery. I obviously went to the Hell Domain to find you. Why did I instead go back to the past? This must be the nightmare Suzaku referred to. Everything I experienced is just an illusion. Di Song, how can I get out of this? Our sons, our daughter, they're all waiting for me. I can't stay here any longer. Di Song's face showed a flicker of surprise before wrinkling his temple up. Hell Domain? Sons and daughter? Yenner, the baby in your womb isn't born yet. Bai Yan looks down at her belly, where there's a prominent bulge showing. Di Song doesn't know anything. If he knew, he will. Di Song, I need to tell you the truth. Everything that's happening now, it's all in the past. I knew Azure Dragon and them would die. I tried to change their fates, I tried to save them, but each and every single time I failed. We can't keep doing this isn't real. And I need to find you. Di Song got quiet, leaving the whole air stale and suffocating. After a long time, the man's low and hoarse voice sounded. This is the reason for your personality change? Yes. Yenner, can you tell me the future? In our next life, do we have children together? Yes. Bai Yan replied softly. Her eyes were very gentle. Xiachen is very good and kind. Ling Yan is well-behaved and sensible. Although Jin Tian eats a lot and is greedy with his food, he's showing all the qualities of a fine man. They're all very excellent. Di Song, they're all waiting for me. I must wake up from this nightmare. This dream had been so real that Bai Yan thought she traveled back in time. If not for Azure Dragon's death in the last loop, she wouldn't have come to her senses and remembered the truth. How can I help? Di Song's gaze fell upon his wife's body and firmly states his will. Though reluctance, he's obviously not going to keep this up if it's true. I don't know. I just know that I and the baby in my womb can't live long. Bai Yan slowly closed her eyes. In the previous life, she had died in Di Song's arms after fleeing the battlefield when Azure Dragon acted as their rear guard. At that point, the baby should have been around 5 months old, which was around this time, as well with a slightly different change in environment. Di Song hugged his wife even harder. I will never let you disappear, never. Even if I have to give up everything else, I would keep her safe. Bai Yin slowly closed her eyes to take comfort in her man's arm after getting the support. Is it that after my life is over, the nightmare too will end? This way, I will be able to return to the Hell domain. Don't worry, Deetsong, our bond won't end. In the next life, I will wait for you. The fated day finally arrives not long afterwards. The masters of the demon realm were slaughtered by the celestial realm, and Deetsong had yet to return from the expedition, thus causing Bai Yin to rush into the belly of the beast where everything occurred. Even if the cost was her life, the demon queen didn't hesitate. Nightmare 6. Keeper Ling's gaze fell on the woman who rushed over to their spot. He's sneering upon recognizing who it was. It's been a while. It really has been a while since I last saw you. Bai Yin spoke with indifference. You are still as unpleasant as ever. Humph. Keeper Ling snorted coldly as he swept his gaze over to Bai Yan's belly, then smirking contemptuously. Lass, in the past you would always follow the celestial lord around, so we all thought you would only have him in your eye, to think. Sighing like he's totally disappointed. How long has it been and you're already pregnant with another man's bastard child? Bai Yin narrowed her eyes into a slit. He is unjust to me, so why should I have feelings for him? Besides, Chewy God is only a brother to me, nothing else and nothing more. He's murdered Azure Dragon and them. Therefore any siblingship is gone between us. I only have hate left for him. Why would I ever marry an enemy, and give up my husband who is so kind and good? Ha ha ha. Keeper Ling sneered some more, waving his hand to summon his men. Come, kill this woman alone with his child in that womb. Do not leave a single person alive. Queen. Those of the demon realm present were stunned. They wanted to go help Bai Yin, but their injuries obstructed that will. They could barely stand up, let alone fight. Queen, you don't have to worry about us, you go. With a blank face and an indifferent face, she confronts those who wants her life without fear. Ignoring the fact that she's pregnant now, Bai Yin wouldn't have been able to contend with this man people of such caliber. Not to mention there's also the second strongest member of the Celestial Palace, Keeper Ling. Before long, the Demon Queen had fallen into a disadvantage as she exhausted her strength. Hurrying to take a pill to replenish her strength, she evades another swipe of the sword by the enemy. Yenner. A terrified voice came from the rear. Then in her critical moment, the moment Bai Yin turned around, was when she saw Deetsong's frantic face, rapidly closing in on her location. PFFF. Unsure when Keeper Ling had gotten behind the woman, but a sword had pierced through Bai Yan's chest at the momentary reunion. Blood sprayed out of her chest in a splattering motion, causing her clothes to stain red and gory. Deetsong. Deetsong, I should go back to where I belong. The corners of Bai Yan's mouth hung an anguishing smile, as her body collapsed to the ground after the metallic blade sheathed out of her flesh. Since only death could make the nightmare disappear, she chose to accept it, and only then could she return to the Hell domain. The previous life was already a thing of the past. Being reluctant wouldn't change a thing. She must save the Deetsong in her life this life. Bai Yin, death isn't the end for you. I will destroy your soul so you can never be reborn. Boom. When Keeper Ling raised his hand, a bolt of lightning promptly fell down and smashed into Bai Yan's lifeless body. But does death really represent the end though? Bai Yin awoke again, due to a series of noisy sounds around herself. Slightly opening a crack in her eyes, the Demon Queen was horrified to discover she was back at the execution grounds again, at the Celestial Palace. Nightmare 7. Why? Why am I back in this place? Bai Yan's eyes were in a daze as she swept her sight over to the familiar faces down below. She's so lost that whatever Keeper Ling was saying went completely over her head. Did you hear me or what? Keeper Ling's eyes were cold, and was further annoyed by the disregard from the woman. Do you have any last words for yourself? If you do, then hurry up and say it. We don't have time to waste on you anymore. Bai Yin didn't reply right away. Rather, she made a confused face for a good while before muttering the only words that came to mind. What did you say? Since you don't want to say anything, then we will begin the execution. Bai Yin, don't blame us for not giving you the opportunity to leave a last will. The old grumpy guy snorts a cold grunt and waved the men to begin lighting the pyre. The hot flames promptly surrounded Bai Yin from all sides. Yet, the woman could not feel an ounce of pain, only a hollow emptiness at the people yelling at her with disdain. Exactly like before, a purple-robed and silvered hair man came to her rescue in the nick of time. But unlike the first loop, this time around the demon queen didn't feel excitement after seeing her husband. She's gone through a lot of loops already, but this was different, and the only time back at the execution ground. How could this be? How could this be? She clasped her head heavily as agony showed along her face. Why is everything back to square one? All of it. Why is this starting all over again? Do I have to keep experiencing this pain? The pain of losing my friends, losing everyone I care about? Falling into her lowest point, Bai Yin did not utter a word as she allowed Di Tsong to take her away. In the same way, everything that happened next was like a nightmare. First it was the demon realm being besieged by the forces of the celestial realm. Then it was the sacred beasts falling in order to save her. Afterwards, she did everything to the script as she pulled her pregnant self to find Di Tsong after they lost contact with him. Lastly, she awoke once again under the grief-stricken cries of her husband after dying. It never stopped. Each loop continued to grow in horror. Though sometimes the same, it also changed slightly with each variation to make it all the more painful. This continued until Bai Yin could no longer take it and became entirely numb. Maybe I can't escape anymore? And this is the reason why Di Tsong and Suzaku are reluctant to let me enter the Hell Domain. Bai Yan's heart was still unwilling to give up. But what else was she supposed to do? She's tried dying already, that didn't work. Then she tried to change the events by whatever means necessary. That also didn't pan out. Nothing was working. The bloodstained battlefield. A young man's figure stood strong and proud against the bristling wind. Though the life in the lad's eye had faded by this point due to the open hole running right through his chest, the power this body carried could not be wiped away. White Tiger, it's enough. You don't have to do this anymore. I don't want to see you die every time like this. Please don't do this, I can't take anymore. Bai Yin threw herself over to the still warm corpse, her tears depleted due to the repeated crying. Nightmare 8. Why are you making me taste this pain again and again? I don't want to go on like this anymore. And I don't want to see you dying before my eyes, White Tiger. Anger ignites from within Bai Yan's sobbing eyes, her hands tightly grasping onto her friend's body as she trembled due to the intense emotion. Am I really going to be stuck here forever? She growls at the air with no specific target. I refuse to believe this. I refuse to believe there's no way out of this nightmare. Di Tsong Xiachen, wait for me. I won't let this hurdle stop me. Despite having no more tears left to cry with, Bai Yin still found her cheeks moist as she stared up towards the crimson-red sky. Then suddenly, after a long while of this, she made a surprised face. It's raining? The few times I've experienced this, I don't recall it ever raining. Of course there were deviations in the past, but only small things like a word or a tiny gesture. This can't be normal. Why is that? Yin Yen, why are you asleep here? Hurry and wake up, please. Boom. A voice exploded in her head, bringing forth a wave of warmth and familiarity. The corners of Bai Yan's mouth moved slightly as she took another look over the entire battlefield. Only then did she notice the flickering images of everyone around until they completely disappeared from her eyes. Right now, there's only a hazy white mist from where she stood. Yin Yen, Yin Yen. The call was getting closer and closer until Bai Yin couldn't resist heading for the source of this voice. Eventually a dazzling ray of sunlight shone through this fog. Out of reflex, she raised a hand to swipe away at the whiteness blocking her line of sight. This instantly dispersed the closest whiteness from her gesture to reveal that young teenage face. Yin Yen, you finally woke up. The young teen's face was all smiles after seeing her eyes opening. Mo Li Shang? Piggy's owner. There was still a dull look in Bai Yan's eyes, but it didn't take long before her focus locked onto the guy's smile. Why are you here? The teenager scratched the back of his head and replied cluelessly. I don't know, one moment I was asleep. The next I was here when I awoke. Rather it's you, Yin Yen. Why are you sleeping on the ground? Bai Yin furrowed her brows at the explanation. If I had come out of the nightmare, then what's the explanation for Mo Lishang's appearance in the Hell domain? Am I going through another dream with him instead? She propped herself up and scanned the surroundings. There's still the sea of fire behind her, which showed she had crossed over that part like she remembered. No, this isn't a nightmare. I've completely escaped from it. This is thanks to Mo Lishang's call. If he didn't call for me, I might still be inside that never-ending loop of suffering. No matter if it's a coincidence, he's a total lifesaver. But then Bai Yin recalled something important. Narrowing her eyes in at the lad, the demon queen tries to pinpoint the familiarity with anything that comes to mind. Unsurprisingly, nothing came of it because the woman didn't know this guy 1,000 years ago. She didn't know this person. Yin Yin, why are you looking at me with that kind of face? Mo Lishang acted all embarrassed and asked, did I do something wrong? Nightmare 9. Bai Yin retracted that gaze and shook her head. No, by the way, did you really appear here when you woke up? Nodding his head, Mo Lishang continues with his explanation. I originally wanted to go to the demon realm, to find you since I was wondering how he was doing. Then when I took a nap halfway there, I suddenly found myself here of all places after I awoke. Fortunately you are here, Yin Yin. Now I'm not so worried. Do you know what this place is? Bai Yin was silent for a while before questioning further. The young man shook his head in confusion. I don't know. I just appeared in this place without any knowledge. Yin Yin, do you know where we are? This is the Hell domain. Bai Yin narrowed her eyes again. The passage for the Hell domain exists within the demon realm. And I wasn't sleeping. I was experiencing a nightmare that doesn't end. To get to this point, I've gone through ice and fire. The amount of danger involved can't even be described. Yet you're able to make it here by taking a nap? How could she believe that story? A shock crossed the teenager's clean face, before transforming into a sad and aggrieved expression. Yin Yin, I really don't know what's going on. You have to believe me, please? Seeing the young man's lost appearance, the cold glow in Bai Yan's eyes gradually dissipated. Perhaps he really didn't know how to get into the Hell domain? Shang, since you're able to come here, it proves that you are somehow connected to the Hell domain. But no matter what, I hope you will never betray me. Bai Yin squinted her eyes again to hide the ray of light flashing underneath. Yin Yin, I won't hurt you. I would never hurt her. Mo Lishang looks up with those clean crystal eyes to vow at the heavens. Then let's go. I still have to find Deetsong. If there was still the contract, then she might be able to find her husband using that connection. But that's not possible now. It's gone, meaning she needed to do this the old-fashioned way. Bai Yin sighed inwardly at how challenging this mission was being. Nevertheless, escaping the nightmare was already a fortunate event. As long as she's out of there, then anything else was fine. Okay. With a bright smile, he came over to Bai Yan's side and hooked his arms around the ladies. Yin Yin, I will protect you. Bai Yin couldn't stay serious under the lad's friendliness and admitted defeat. It is enough for you to stay behind me. I can solve any problem that shows up. No, I can protect you. Mo Lishang's tone became stubborn and doesn't relent. Since I said I can protect you, I will definitely do it. Seeing that he was so persistent, Bai Yin did not say anything more and turned back to the view up ahead. Deetsong, wait for me. I will definitely find you. Unlike the other domains, there was nothing but barren wasteland in sight. For a long time, Bai Yin and Mo Lishang didn't see anyone. Not a human, not an animal, nothing, only a boring, tasteless desert. But even so, Bai Yin did not dare to take it lightly. Deetsong had encountered enough danger to break their connection, meaning there must be something incredibly powerful lurking about. Nightmare 10 Hell Realm. In a large expanse of a forest stood an ancient manor. It's airtight and difficult to spot from a distance, unless one knew its location beforehand. Nevertheless, that doesn't mean there are no people around. Right at this very moment, a certain young girl wearing a tight yellow dress was acting all nervous before the stone door. Milady, the master said no one is allowed to enter the stone chamber here. We should go back, okay? The maid accompanying the milady was antsy and cowardly, because their actions were already breaking the rules. The world says the man hidden inside this stone chamber is someone brought back by my Shifu. That's why I want to confirm it for myself. He must be exceptional to cause my Shifu to be so infatuated with him. The girl took in a deep breath before gently pressing down at a switch. With a squeak, the doors swung open and out came a breath of cold stale air, causing both lady and maid to shiver due to the low temp. But curiosity always wins out when it matches against a maiden's fear. Lifting her feet, both of them stepped through to find a man lying on a bed. At just one glance, she now understood why her Shifu would go through such lengths for a man. As the young miss of the Hell Domain, the only disciple of her Shifu, she's seen countless men in her times. However, there's not a single male existence that could compare to this individual. His skin was smoother and more delicate than a woman's, and his red lips were crimson red like blood, and his shape was seductively demonic. There's no way she wouldn't be enamored by a godly specimen of this caliber. Xiaoying, I finally understand why Shifu hid this man inside the chamber. There's no comparison at all, none at all. But why is he unconscious? The girl pursed her lips as she obsessively eyed the unconscious man. Such a glorious man. If only I could have him for myself. Too bad he's Shifu's target. I won't have a chance. Miss, let's get out of here already. If your Shifu the monarch finds us, The maid's expression grew more anxious as she kept glancing back to the entrance behind themselves. No need to hurry. I just want another glance, just another glance, and I will leave. Despite her words, the girl's gaze never left the man's. In fact, her hand had started to move against the guy's face. Shocked, the maid stomped her feet and cried, "Miss, you must not touch this man, otherwise the monarch." But that plea was falling on deaf ears by this point. Right as the girl's fingertip was about to make contact, a blast of heavy pressure blew out and shook the naughty lady's soul. Out of reflex, she jerked backward out of fear. What's going on? The girl made a stunned face, eyeing the unconscious man with disbelief and panic. Nightmare 11. Why? Why is he able to resist my touch when he's obviously not awake? The girl bit her lips tightly in resentment. This man, what in the world is he? Miss, we need to leave. If the monarch finds out, then she will be furious. The maid's expression became more and more anxious as she pleaded again. The girl finally got dragged away by her maid after much struggle. Despite this, the reluctance in those eyes could not be dismissed. It's so strong that merely being able to watch that slumbering Prince Charming was enough to satisfy her desire. However, right at the last second where both of them were about to step out of the stone chamber, the sleeping prince, lying there motionlessly, abruptly twitched. Next it was the eyes shooting open. What kind of eyes is that? It's as if all things under the heavens were within his grasp. Hello, my name is Moxian. You were brought here by my Shifu. What is your name? The girl tried to appear harmless by making a bright and innocent face. Rubbing his temple tightly, the man's actions were halted after hearing that voice as he turned to look over. Her breath nearly stopped in astonishment. She had never imagined there would be such a perfect set of eyes. It's enough to seduce and suck her soul out into him. Scram! The man's red lips moved only so slightly, yet the voice was intense and overpowering. Surprised and taken aback, she promptly took several steps backward, speaking with an aggrieved and wronged voice. What's wrong with you? Are you sick? Why are you so fierce to me? If you are unwell, then tell me. I can call for the healers to come see. The man didn't respond to her. Instead, he had gradually stopped pressing his temple with that hand and lowered it. In light of this simple gesture, it was so flawless that she couldn't gather her wits to process this great picture. Immediately, a thumping sound filled that heart due to the swirling emotions. Why don't you talk? Moxian continues to press for a word after being ignored. You haven't told me your name yet. I am called Moxian. You can call me Yenner if you like. Yenna. SSSCZ. A sharp pain cuts down at the man's temple and causes him to jerk reflexively. There's nothing in his memory, as if someone wiped it all away and left him with only a blank sheet of paper. Yenner. He desperately tried to recall the past out of instinct, but the more he thought about it, the worse that throbbing pain became. It's as if someone was chiseling away at his head. Moxin Yin rejoiced inside over her name being repeated. Sir, if you like, you can keep calling me Yenner from now on. The man's eyes changed from the initial daze to a type of gloom, smiling menacingly with a cold frosted light. You don't deserve the name Yenner. Bang! Without a signal, the man flew from the bed and raised a hurricane in the chamber, which sent Moxin Yin to the ground due to how abrupt this blast was. It left the lady staring up in amazement at the direction of where the man escaped to. It's over. The maid was even more stunned. She remained at the doorway so she wasn't as affected. Nevertheless, the desperation and horror were all over that face. The man left the secret chamber. If the monarch finds out, then we are doomed. Nightmare 12. The maid was about to cry. The young lady was the monarch's only disciple, meaning the other girl wouldn't be hurt. But she herself wasn't so fortunate. Execution would be the least of her worries. Moxin Yin bit her lip tightly as that body shook with tremor. Why did he act so fierce at me? Did I do something wrong? Miss, the maid gets all teary and red in the eye. It's useless for you to think about him anymore now. We should be thinking about how we're going to explain this to the monarch. Moxin Yin did not speak, for her calm heart had long been ruffled up. If this man hadn't woken up, then that's one thing. I don't want to fight with my Shifu for a man either, but I can't anymore. The second I met his eyes, I've fallen for him, completely fallen for him. Xiaoying, I didn't know what it was like to fall in love before I met him. Moxin Yin slowly stood up from the ground, her pretty face stained with a bittersweet flavor. But after this encounter, I learned that some people only need a glance to understand the meaning of love. Even if it's only as a concubine, I'm willing to be his. Unfortunately, a woman as strong as Shifu would never agree to this arrangement. But what else am I supposed to do? My heart is moved. There's no turning back anymore. You don't have to worry. I will explain this to Shifu so she doesn't punish you. Moxin Yin looked back to her maid and smiled brightly. Moreover, have you forgotten? This piece of the world is all under Shifu's control. He can't escape Shifu's grasp, so we won't be blamed too much. She may say that, but disobeying the monarch's order of not entering the stone chamber was by virtue a crime punishable by death. Even if that won't happen, it's undoubtedly going to infuriate the monarch. Xiaoying also pulled herself up from the ground and made a thin white line with those lips. After all, what else was she supposed to say? She's merely a lowly maid, so her life was in the hands of this lady and her Shifu. After a long while of this awkwardness, it was the lady who spoke to break it. Let's go. We need to inform my Shifu and ask for forgiveness. Outside the old manor was a sizable expanse of forest. The moonlit greenery was quite gloomy, and the evening wind gave it an uncanny feeling to those new to the area. Yenner, Yenner, where are you? The silver-haired man grasped his head tightly, desperately trying to recall the vague face hiding within his head. It's so close yet so far from his reach. Little girl, my heart is dead without you, and only with you will my life be with purpose. The man's hand involuntarily moved down from the head and touched the chest where his heart lied. He couldn't feel the heartbeat, only the cold bristling air that was blowing through this evening where he felt so lonely and without purpose. Even if I can't remember anything, nor know how you look like, but I will find you even if it takes me to the end of this world. The man's red lips curved into that iconic grin of confidence. He's evil yet seductive, the stunning demon king of old. Ancient manor. A woman wearing a pearl white dress quickly passed through the corridors here, until she arrived outside her own study room. Here, Moxin Yin had already been waiting. When their eyes met, the latter was obviously flustered, and recoiled back a step under that compelling aura. Woman in white 1. Shifu. Shifu. Moxin Yan's voice was trembling as those teeth clattered. Xin Yan. The woman in white sounded cold and chilling, those eyes piercing as she could see through the young lady. Have you been inside the stone chamber? Moxin Yan's body shook harder as she leaned in close to the door behind her back. Shifu. I just wanted to see what that man is like. I didn't think he would escape. Really, Shifu, you have to believe me. The girl's face was full of urgency as tears slowly trickled down those cheeks. Bang! Without mercy, the woman in white raised a hand and slapped the student across the face, thus sending Moxing Yin flying into the study room and breaking the door as a result. There were traces of blood showing at the corner of her mouth due to this impact. The young lady never expected her teacher to be so ruthless and hit her like this. At most a stern lecture. I said so before that no one is allowed inside that chamber. Did you not understand my words or something? The face of the woman in white stares down with a threatening gleam, hurrying to pull herself into a kneeling posture. Moxing Yin didn't dare to act out and began slamming her head against the floor in a begging motion. Please, Shifu, I know my fault. I will never do it again. Please forgive me this one time. Unmerciful as ever, the woman in white reached down and grabbed the lady by the neck and lifted her up into the air like a doll. She's squeezing hard so Moxing Yan's complexion has turned red due to the suffocating choke. Xian Yan, do you think you can do anything you please just because I'm fond of you? The cruel woman smirks like an evil villain and cackles a bit. Don't forget how you came to be. I took you in as a child because I found your talent worth my time. If you dare betray me, then I won't just let you die. Shuddering uncontrollably due to the intense fear in her veins, Moxing Yin wanted to plead her case, but found it difficult to say anything. The squeeze was making it impossible for her throat to utter a sound. Also, I know you've seen him, so lose that idea. He's not someone you can match. If you dare to have any ideas and I find out. The woman in white sneered into the student's eye. I believe I don't need to tell you about the consequences. Bang! Throwing the student like a ragged doll, she casually took out a handkerchief and carefully wiped her palm like it was nothing. Coughing hard upon breathing again, Moxing Yin crawled up to her Shifu and got into a prostrating position. She didn't even dare to raise that head at this point. Thank goodness. Thank goodness I didn't say anything about wanting to become that man's concubine. Otherwise, Shifu would surely kill me. Shifu, I will never disobey you again. The young lady says, lowering her back even further until her figure was almost into a turtle shape. However, this also hid the cold gleam in Moxing Yan's eyes from view. If you are obedient, then you are still my good disciple. Therefore, I will continue to spoil you. But if you disobey my orders again, don't blame me for not being kind. After hearing this, Moxing Yan's body shuddered some more, but knew she was safe now. In the Hell Realm, her Shifu was the supreme authority, holding the power of life and death. No one dares to disobey this woman, no one. Woman in white too. She thought she was different, but apparently, she had forgotten the truth. A dog would always remain a dog. If not for her Shifu picking this dog up from the street, Moxing Yin would be nothing. No power, no influence, no ability to do anything in life. In essence, whatever the lady in white decides, she must comply if she wishes for this life to continue. Go down. The woman in white waved her hand dismissively and spoke in a cold voice. In addition, you are not allowed to approach him in the future. Do you understand? Moxing Yin knew who the man her Shifu was referring to. Though unwilling, she nevertheless lowered her head and complied. Yes, Shifu. After saying this, she slowly pulled herself up from the cold hard ground and retreated from the room with resentment. Monarch. When alone, an old man hidden in the shadows gradually surfaced and respectfully arched his fist. Do you need me to bring him back by sending my men out? Yes. The woman in white played with her hair like a love-struck maiden. I couldn't have him before. But now that he's in my territory, I won't let him get away again. No one can have him aside from me. It was not easy to make him lose his memory, but no matter, he won't escape my grasp. Sooner or later, I will be wed to him, and he will fall madly in love with me. The woman in white raised her head, those beautiful eyes firm and radiant with hope. Hell Realm. Inside the hellish desert, the scorching sun bakes the whole world underneath its sight like a boiler room. As it so happens, Bai Yan and Emily Shang were currently traversing this dastardly terrain. Shang, take this pill. It will help with the heat. Bai Yan took out a bottle and poured what remained inside the container for the lad and herself. Immediately, their fatigue vanished in a puff and replenished their energy. Yin Yen, if you are tired, I can carry you. Emily Shang walked over to Bai Yan's weathered body and crouched down to offer his hand. Despite being very thin himself, the teenager appears unusually big and strong, which brought a smile to Bai Yan's face. I'm not a child, you know. It's okay. I can walk on my own. Come, we should keep moving. I'm really worried about Deetsong. Forming a bittersweet smile, Emily Shang didn't want to refute her request. Yin Yen, if you are tired, then be sure to tell me. There's no need to be polite with me. I don't have many friends in this world aside from you and Piggy. Aside from you too, there's no other. With a blank face, she looks up at the teenager's smile. His eyes were like pearls, shining brilliantly without pollution. Then out of reflex, she wanted to pat his head. I am really fine, let's continue. Blocking her eyes from the glare of the sun with her hand, she continues to walk forward for the other end of the desert. Maybe the environment in the Hell Realm was too harsh, but Bai Yen and her companion did not meet a single person or animal during the entire stretch of their journey. With the roasting atmosphere behind them, Bai Yen gives her forehead a quick wipe with the handkerchief to remove the sweat. However, she had noticed the teen next to herself lacking in this department, and threw a clean one over. Woman in white 3. Remember to toss the handkerchief after you're done. She has a phobia for cleanliness, and she doesn't like to share things with other men except for Deetsong. Even if the said item was a handkerchief, that's no different. If Yin Yin don't need this anymore, can I keep it instead? Emily Shang held the red fabric with glowing eyes. No, you must toss it afterward. Bai Yan's tone was unwavering and non-negotiable, making a somewhat aggrieved-looking face. Why? Because Emperor Song doesn't like other men to take in my things, even handkerchiefs. Because Deetsong didn't like it, of course. Bai Yan's eyes were heavy as those lips evoked a bitterness in the mouth at the recollection. When did Deetsong have such a significant impact on my decisions? Emily Shang was stunned, staring intensely into the woman's eye. The young man suddenly bellows out a laugh. I understand then, and will respect your wish. But I am very envious of him to be able to make Yin Yin care so much about his opinion. When you meet a woman you like in the future, you won't need to be envious. Bai Yin also fell into a laughing fit. In her mind, she's also finding this situation hilarious, because it's so unlike her to be concerned about a man's opinion. Showing a blank face, Emily Shang sounded doubtful. A woman I like? Will I really meet a woman like that? Of course, you silly. Enough. We've spent so much time here already, so let's keep moving. I can see a small town up ahead. Let's rest there for a while before continuing our journey. I also want to inquire some news from the locals if possible. After saying this, Bai Yen didn't wait, and began walking again. Unlike the rest of the domain where it's like hell itself, this town was bustling with life. Restaurants, tea houses, all the works with plenty of customers. Bai Yen and Emily Shang had taken a seat in one of these tea houses, since it's the most likely establishment to gain information. Hey, did you hear about the incident that occurred at the monarch's residence? It's then a gossiping voice pulled the demon queen's attention. Looking over to that direction, she could see a man clad in green armor clamoring wildly at his audience. What incident? We know the monarch has sent out a lot of people for something, but no one knows what exactly. The one saying this was a big burly man who had a long scar running down his face. Ho ho, this is something I overheard by accident as well. The man clad with green armor grins cheekily. The monarch is married, did you all know that? Married? The sound of the whole tea house instantly evaporated, leaving the whole crowd popping their eyes in surprise. The monarch is married? The woman that is regarded as the goddess of this world is married? Who knows how many men would be dropping down and crying if this news is passed out. The news of the monarch's marriage isn't made public yet, but I do know something special. You know the husband, the lucky guy, he's currently missing. The green-armored man continues to explain with a cocky grin. Why did the monarch's husband disappear? What exactly happened? Our location is too remote, so I guess none of you heard anything. But according to the rumors from the city, It's a woman who seduced the husband. Woman in white 4. Well, if that's the case, the woman is really a shameless vixen. Our monarch believes in one wife, one husband. As a result, many of us have changed our ways towards that thinking as well. If there is a third party, they will always be regarded as a family-ruining slut. The consequences are dire. I know, right? There are so many sluts out there that it's despicable. I really don't understand that guy. The monarch is so outstanding. What idiot would want to sneak a bite when they already have such a wonderful wife? Maybe it's because the monarch is too overwhelming? Perhaps that guy is too useless that he felt ashamed and needed to flex his muscle on another female. We all know how amazing the monarch is. Perhaps he just couldn't handle being dominated and being on the bottom of the bed. The voices of the crowd were slightly different in their views, but one thing's for certain, they all regarded the monarch of this domain highly. Even if the information was nothing but a rumor, they still believed it wholeheartedly. Yen, do you want to go check out some other place? Emily Shang groans in boredom at the lack of information they wanted. I estimate we won't be getting any more from these people at this rate. Bai Yin didn't reply and stared at the arguing crowd. For some reason, she's got this sensation that she's missing something here. In this domain, there are very few individuals who can harm Ditsong. I have a feeling my husband's disappearance is somehow related to this monarch, or at the very least, related to those who work under this woman. After spelling out her theory, Bai Yin tossed a couple of silver on the table and pulled the young lad away. But Yen, do you know where the monarch's residence is? Emily Shang stood under the beaming sun and asked. Getting awkward, Bai Yin muses over this issue for a good while. She didn't think about that earlier, so this left her in a dilemma. However, it's then a voice from the side that caused her to jerk in surprise. You two want to go to the Monarch Manor? Squinting her eyes into a slit over that sentence, she slowly turned towards the source and found a young lad with an unhealthy shade of white on his skin. You know where the Monarch Manor is? Though abrupt, Bai Yin suddenly forms a marvelous smile like they're good friends. Lady, the monarch's residence is a big secret in the Hell domain. We've all seen the monarch before, but few know where she lives. The unhealthy young guy chuckles creepily that would turn off any female, then staring down Bai Yin like he sees a prize. However, I do know someone from the monarch's residence. If lady is willing to accompany me for a night, I promise to take you there. How about it? Woman in white 5. Everyone knew that the monarch was magnificent, but the woman before himself was no loser either. That's right. In the eye of this pompous and idiotic man trying to hit on Bai Yin, she was no more than a prostitute that he could sleep with by dangling carrot. Sadly for this depleted guy, his customary bullying around town was coming to an end today. His family wouldn't be able to protect him like in the past. Bai Yin forked her finger at the man in a welcoming gesture, her eyes flirtatious and seductive. Come over here, and then we'll talk, good sir. Lady, does that mean a yes? Rubbing his hands together like a womanizer, the guy didn't think twice and gingerly stepped forward with drool leaking from that mouth. Suddenly, within 2 feet of each other, Bai Yin raised her leg and directly kicked the guy between the crotch. A deathly wail howled into the air as a result of the damage. White and soul-wrenching, the guy squatted down on the spot and groaned in utter regret. He didn't understand what was going on, nor could he think of the reasoning for this. Slut, how dare you hit me? Do you know who I am? No one dares to touch me here. After a good minute of excruciating pain in his balls, the guy finally throws this out through gritted teeth. Bai Yin ignored the young man's threat and kicked at his balls again, causing the guy to squirm in agony while the onlooking crowd flinched in horror. Make no mistake, the majority of the people watching are men, and any male could easily tell another their balls are the greatest weakness of a man. It's shocking to them that a beauty like this one would be so vicious. This woman, isn't she too cruel? That is the only son of the Mei household. If she ruins his manhood, that family won't let her go. Oh, he could have flirted with anyone, yet he chose Yin. Emily Shang was rather enjoying this moment, as he watched the other guy with sympathetic eyes. He expected as much from the demon queen, and he's not disappointed. Slut. Climbing up with great difficulty, the young man stared Bai Yin dead in the eye. My father won't let you get away with this. Pa! Without mercy, the demon queen grabs the guy by the collar and slaps him across the face. Showing a cold glow in her eyes, Bai Yan's voice was cold and harsh. I will ask you only once, how do we get to the monarch's estate? Pay! The young man spat a mouthful of blood to the ground. I said so before. You only needed to accompany me for one night. Now, even if you sacrifice your life, I will still not tell you. When these last words were uttered, the young man's expression didn't back down and grew more fierce in his attitude. Won't say. Bai Yin sneered and slapped him harder in the face again. Beaten to the point of his mind going blank, the pervert suddenly regretted his own decision of coming out today, without an entourage. This was not his own wish, of course. He had been locked at home by his parents due to the heinous acts from before, hence the reason why he snuck out. But who could have guessed the moment he came out would be his own undoing? Slut, I dare you hit me again and see what will happen. The young guy shouts angrily after seeing the smirk on the woman's face. Since this is your request, then I will satisfy you. Slap, slap, slap. Bai Yan's hand was merciless. In no time at all, countless hits were thrown down. Woman in White 6. The young man's face had swollen into a pig's head by this point, leaving it difficult to recognize his original appearance. In fact, several of those teeth were gone, knocked out from the brutal ass slapping. I'll give you another chance. Where is the monarch's estate? The cold glow in Bai Yan's eyes flickered, and her voice was unervingly calm. Groaning further and mumbling incoherent words due to the swollen face, the guy finally realizes he's in trouble now. Shuddering, he didn't dare meet the demon queen's gaze. But before a word could be uttered, another kick came down again and stomped onto his chest. Since you are so tough, then I will grant your wish. This time, Bai Yin did not give him another chance to speak anymore, and hammered down a storm at the poor guy's face. Forget about swollen anymore, it's downright bloody and purple. Woo-woo, I'll say. He eagerly volunteers himself like an animal after getting a hiatus from the tiny break. Go east and you will find a forest. It's there that the monarch's estate is located. I don't know any more than that. He almost cried out in sobbing tears. If the guy had known Bai Yin to be so violent, he wouldn't have coveted after her beauty. Though difficult to make out, the words were nevertheless enough for the demon queen to make out, raising a finger to lift the guy's chin so he looks upward. You didn't lie to me? No. The youth no longer had the stubbornness he had before, but instead carried panic in those eyes. He knew that this woman would surely beat him to death if he didn't say anything. Very good. But if I find out you're deceiving me, then I will make sure you die a death of rotting from the inside out. Bai Yin shot another cold menacing glance at the young guy, before turning around. Her every strike was thumping against the pervert's ear like she's some sort of grim reaper. Come Shang, we're leaving. Emily Shang nodded and didn't hesitate in leaving. However, he also didn't forget to shoot a glance backward. It's just that, instead of the kind and innocent look he always showed to Bai Yin, his eyes were glowing weirdly with some dark sheen. Yin, do you think his words are true? He asks after catching up. It should be true, said Bai Yin with a raised eyebrow. I can't see any deception in those eyes he made. But if he is deceiving me, I won't let him go for sure. Once they were out of town, Yin, I need to go do my business. Emily Shang suddenly stopped and said this with a red face. Though frowning at the interruption, Bai Yin sighs and nods. Then go quickly around the bush, I won't look. No. Emily Shang's young handsome face had become a cherry pink. I need to find an outhouse. Otherwise I can't go. Wait for me, Yin, I will be back soon. Without looking back for fear of the woman rejecting his request, he quickly ran in the opposite direction to head back into town. Back in the Mei household, the chief was entertaining some guests when his son was carried back in his deplorable state. Edge, who is it? Who injured you this badly? He rushed over in haste to help his son. He's furious, livid, even to the point where veins were popping out. Without ado, the The story of what occurred on the street were explained in detail by the one who carried the young guy home. Emily Shang Acts 1. My son is indeed wrong in hitting on her, but she's too vicious to use such a heavy-handed approach. The chief of the May house clenched his fists tightly and yelled in a loud voice. Someone come, send my son Edge back to his room, and invite Master Mei Luo over to treat him. I will personally go settle the score with that woman who dares to hurt my boy. As a father, there's no way this chief wouldn't know the crap his son has done and would do. Otherwise, he wouldn't have locked Edge inside the estate. But even so, such a beating was too harsh in his opinion. A little more, and his son would lose his life. Who are you looking for to settle the score? Then suddenly, a voice came from the front, and in came a young lad with a fair yet baby face. No one would take this matchup as dangerous. In fact, it's like a harmless animal that wants a cuddle. Who are you? What is the intention in coming to my May house? Yet, it's this exact person who gave the chief an incredibly dangerous feeling. The woman you're going to settle the score with, the teenager chuckles grimly, is my friend, so what do you think I'm here for? You. Chief May's eyes widened in shock. Somehow, a surge of panic swirled out from his heart at the teenager's voice. It's so innocent sounding, yet the undertone felt more threatening than anything he's confronted in this life. You're here to avenge her? Chief May grits his teeth and attempts to stop that trembling body. She wasn't hurt in any way, rather it's my son who is injured. But aren't you going to look for her? How can I let you do that when I'm her friend? So, this town no longer needs a May house. After saying this, the teenager slowly raised his hand and materialized a burst of red flames that instantly encircled the entire estate. Nothing could leave or enter at this point. You want to destroy my May house? Chief May was furious. His son only said a few dirty words. He didn't even attempt to hurt the other party. How can someone be this unreasonable? Of course I do. There is no need for threats to exist, and you are a threat to her. Emily Shang raised his chin high, those eyes looking down in contempt at the crumbled figure of the chief, who was shaking uncontrollably. However, I will say this so you can move on without resentment. A child's fault lies in their parents' teaching. You did not educate your son well, which caused this disaster to occur in your household. Even if me and Yin Yin didn't come today, it would just be a matter of time before he offends another. By then, your May house would be destroyed regardless. Chief May's complexion first turned white, then to green in utter rage. Are you not afraid of retribution from the heavens? Emily Shang's smile grew even broader. I am doing justice for eliminating evil. If there is a heaven, it won't punish me, only reward me. Moreover, it's worth it if it means going against the heavens for her. He gives a final glance around the estate, which has been engulfed in the fire by this point. Not only were the buildings burning, the people here were also crying as the fire caught onto their clothes due to the intensity. Taking this all in and understanding his work was done, Molly Shang's figure disappears like a fluff of wind, leaving no traces of his presence ever being here. Chief May understood now after seeing this abrupt departure. The initial anger has been eclipsed by despair. There's nothing left. The burning of his home, the massacre of his people, they're all finished, and he too would be killed before long. Emily Shang Acts 2. You finish your business? Bai Yin raised her brows and smiled at the young lad. Aha! Emily Shang nodded after coming before the Demon Queen. I'm done using the outhouse. Yin Yin, we can go now. Bai Yan's gaze swept over the teenager's face, but she didn't say anything, nor did she ask anything. Her gaze looked at the sky not far away, and her eyes narrowed slightly. No matter how sinister this hell realm is, she will find him. Life and death are inseparable. Shifu. Inside the monarch's manor, Mo Xanyin carefully came before the woman in white and spoke softly. Have you found him? Huh. The ruler of this domain eventually sets her sight on the student. What? Don't tell me you are really interested in him now? Are you that eager to see him again? Mo Xanyan's face instantly got white. No, I didn't. I'm just worried about you, Shifu. After all, you do like him so much. What if we can't find him? Wouldn't that make you sad, Shifu? The woman in white didn't hide her frosted glint in those eyes over that comment. If you know I like him, then why did you go see him in the first place? Xi and Yen, you know my character. I will never share a man with another. So he can only be mine, understand? Xi and Yen lowered her head in compliance. But the sadness in her heart could not be ignored. Sadly, this student also knew her Shifu's attitude towards sharing men. There's no way that could happen unless one side dies. Shifu, I understand. Xi and Yen pursed her young lips. By the way, after that man woke up, he kept shouting the name Yenner. She did not dare to tell her Shifu that it was her who took the initiative to introduce herself. Yenner. The woman in white tightly furrowed her brows before loosening it again after a minute, sneering her mouth into a snarl. You don't have to care about this matter. You just need to know that he is my husband. Yenner, if I'm not wrong, the only thing that could make him remember was that woman. But this time, I won't let her succeed. Deetsong is going to be mine. Go down now, and you don't have to inquire about him anymore. When he returns, you stay away from him. The woman in white stared at her student and said it with a heavy emphasis on the last sentence. She's very serious and left no other way to interpret it. You should understand what I hate the most. I hope you won't become one of those husbands stealing women's, otherwise I won't know what I will do to you then. Moxn Yin was shocked as she lowered her head in fear, meekly replying, Shifu, I would never dare, nor have I ever thought that way. My mistake before is only out of curiosity. Please do not think further about this subject. Now that's a blatant lie. Moxn Yan's heart was aching so much when she uttered those words that her face had slipped. Thankfully that head was lowered, otherwise the woman would surely pick up on the change. Mo Li Shang Acts 3. If there's nothing else, then go down. The woman in white obviously didn't want to say more to Moxn Yen, and dismissed her. Moxn Yen could definitely hear the impatience within her Shifu's voice, so it frightened the girl. Opening her mouth, she wanted to speak up but found her throat croaking. Yes, Shifu. Giving one last defeated look, she turns away after realizing it's pointless. Just as Moxn Yen was walking out to the backyard while kicking a stone, a troubled figure fell down in front of her from the tree up ahead. Naturally startled by the sudden entrance, the girl quickly takes a few steps back to gain some distance. She was confused initially, but that emotion promptly turned to anger as she shouted at the perpetrator. It's you again! How many times have I said not to appear before me, you dumb thing? Also, what are you even doing here? She really didn't know why her Shifu would take such a stupid woman as an adopted daughter. Thankfully this dumb woman wasn't favored by the monarch. Otherwise Moxn Yan's mood would be dreadful and feel threatened. Sister Xine Yen, this is for you. The girl smiled goofily and offered a peach blossom with her hands. She's dirty in both the face and clothes, a stark contrast to the other lady's clean attire. Flowers for you, it fits you. Bang! Moxn Yen directly slaps the peach blossom away in one swipe, causing the flower to drop to the ground in tatters. This instantly made the other side cry out and weep, which was justly expected when your kind gesture was slapped away without warning. I said so before, do not appear before me. Which part of that do you not understand? Look at yourself, all dirty and filthy. Which part of you look like a lady of the monarch manner? Anger continues to swell up from Moxn Yan's eyes. If it weren't for Shifu's insistence on keeping you around, everyone would have kicked you out long ago so as not to embarrass us. The poor girl who's being verbally abused looked so wronged and aggrieved right now. She didn't understand why Moxn Yen would be so angry when she didn't do anything. Pulling at the sleeve, she kept muttering an apology. Sister Xn Yen, please don't be angry at me. I know I'm wrong, can you forgive me? Not only did this pitiful appearance not quench the fire inside, Moxn Yan's anger only grew more to the point she's ready to erupt. Then thinking of something sinister, she drops her usual kind and innocent facade to say something cruel. Let go of me. I don't want to see you. Shoving the other girl away, she didn't feel an ounce of remorse from her own actions, because it caused the victim to scrape the hand and cause it to bleed. Sister Xianyan, can you tell me what I did wrong? I only wanted to pick some flowers for you. I didn't mean to make you angry. Growling now, Mo Xianyan didn't hear a single word and walked over before leaning down to earshot. She's full of malice in her voice. You want to know what you did wrong? All right, I'll tell you. The fact that you're alive is what's wrong. You should be dead. You being alive is the biggest mistake. The poor girl widens her eyes into a dull look as the tears trickled down without effort. That remark was too hurtful no matter how lacking she was in the intellect department. Mo Lishang asks for. Mo Xianyan, what are you doing? Just as the cruel lady withdrew her head, an indifferent voice came from behind, startled her greatly. Stiff and rigid, she promptly came up with a scheme and reached out to help the other dirty girl up. Sister Heart, are you all right? You need to be more careful, otherwise you will fall down again when picking those flowers. Heart did not understand this abrupt change in attitude, so her face was left in a daze. Even so, she still accepted the gesture with her dirty hands. Naturally, Mo Xianyan felt disgusted at being dirted by the grime, but she forced the displeasure down and continued to smile as she turned to face the monarch. Shifu, how did you get here? Just now Sister Heart accidentally fell from the tree here, so I ran over to help. She spat out her tongue like an innocent good lady, an absolute contrast to the sinister self mere moments ago. Heart. The woman in white's gaze fell onto Heart's dirty figure. Are you Heart? Heart timidly took a couple of steps back under that stare, then speaking in a cautious voice to answer. Aha! That brought a momentary trance to the monarch's mind. So Heart have already grown so big. When I brought her out from that time-diluted space, she was still a baby, and now she's already a teenager. No one knows this, but in reality, this Heart was in fact the monarch's biological daughter. The woman in white had been hurt when her confession failed. Out of depression, she got drunk and spent a night in the back mountain with that person, hence the creation of Heart. Since she never loved this child to begin with, the monarch did a cruel thing despite the child being her own. She tossed the baby into a time-frozen space of the domain. If she hadn't inadvertently passed through that area 10 years ago, Heart would still be in there frozen in time. To top things off on the list of being a cruel mother, Heart's mental level seems to have been damaged by spending so long in stasis. Her mind never grows, remaining at the level of a child. For that defect, the kind of love a lady of this house deserves never got rewarded, and was forgotten until today. How did you become like this? The monarch sees the state of her daughter, and asks with a faint softening of the heart. Her voice wasn't sharp, either, since this was her own child after all. Mo Xianyan tensed up right there, and then after hearing her Shifu's concerned words, out of panic, she promptly spoke up to hide the mean things she's done over the years to Heart. For example, ordering the servants to ignore Heart and leave her to her own demise. Shifu, I feel Sister Heart's condition is getting more and more serious. Whenever the maids tried to help her dress, she would always struggle and turn herself into this state. Why don't we call for a healer to examine her health? Mo Lishang asks 5. Is that so? The woman in white just stared at Mo Xianyan. It is not necessary to call someone. It's enough to let her live out the rest of her life like this. However, you need to have the maids pay closer attention. Don't let her fall into this filthy state again. After all, this girl wasn't born from her and Deet Song, so it's no wonder she wouldn't care about the child. Shame though, the girl's birth father would never know of Heart's existence if this continues. Yes, Shifu. Mo Xianyan proudly raised the corner of her lips into a smirk. She's pleased to know her Shifu doesn't care about Heart like always, meaning she could be more brazen in the future with her bullying. The woman in white paused when she walked by Heart's side, that voice turning softer as she commented. Go back and freshen up as well. Do not stay at the front and stay in the backyard. If others see you, then it will be an inconvenience. Ah, Heart murmurs like a timid rabbit, her head hanging low and not daring to look up at her own mother. Although she wasn't the brightest head around, she could still hear and understand everything, including the disgust in her mother's voice. Don't worry, Shifu. I will take good care of Sister Heart. I won't let anything bad happen to her, and make sure she's well taken care of. Moxin smiled beautifully and said this from behind. That made the monarch stop in her footstep again. She could hear the meaning behind her student's tone. But in the end, the woman in white continued onward and abandoned her own flesh and blood in the rear. As soon as they were alone again, Moxin's expression instantly sank and returned to her ferocious self. I didn't expect Shifu to remember you still after ignoring you for so many years. But don't get cocky. She is my Shifu, not yours, understand? Heart dully raised her head, not understanding the sudden change in attitude. Did I do something wrong again? But I'll miss her too. She bit her lips in grievance and tried to defend her actions. Over the years, her mother had never come to see her. But that doesn't mean Heart never went to see the monarch. Though she's afraid, it doesn't change the longing for a mother. Moxin growled and reached over to pinch that arm, thus causing Heart to tear up from the pain. What are you missing my Shifu for? You are just a dumb lass without any purpose to your own existence. Shifu will not pay a single second of attention to you. If you dare appear before her again, then don't blame me for getting rough. I'm warning you. I won't hold back if I catch you. Moxin's angry glare was intense and threatening. Shrinking back into her timid form, Heart didn't dare to look up like before and grew quiet. Also, you are not allowed to tell others on how I treat you. Moxin narrows her eyes into a cold slit like a snake. Otherwise, you know what will happen then. I will not only beat you, I will drive you out of the estate, so you can never appear before us again. You better behave yourself if you want to stay. Heart's body trembled a few times as she spoke with a shaky voice. Sister Xin. I'll be good, please don't kick me out. Looking at the girl's panicked face, the vile girl finally smiled in satisfaction after getting her way. Emoli Shang Acts 6. As long as you listen to me, then I won't kick you out. On the contrary, if you go against me, then no one will tolerate you. Moxin finally turned and walked in the other direction, expression replaced by the innocent and kind facade she always used in public. The Monarch Manor lay at the heart of the endless forest. As per its name, it's endless with no indication of when the forestry would stop. Nor does one know where the danger lurks from within. However, people are living in this region despite the risk. Right outside the forest's edge, there was a settlement called Endless City. Compared with the town just now, this place was bustling with life at every corner. At this moment, above the walls of the city gate, there are notices plastered along the surface. The painting on the notice depicted a handsome man of incredible magnitude, thus causing the readers to whisper and gossip. Yin this is Deed Song? Emoli Shang got surprised by the picture, and hurriedly dragged Bai Yin over to see. Naturally, the demon queen's face darkened into a grim look as the storm brewed within those eyes. Che, turns out the monarch's husband is like this. A candy boy that only knows how to use his face to win a woman's heart. Haha, why not? If you have a face like that, I'm sure the monarch will favor you too. But I have to say, the lad got some nerve, eloping with another woman when he's already married. By the way, how did you get word of the guy being the monarch's husband? As far as I know, the Monarch Manor has never announced this yet. You sure this guy is her husband? The entire Endless City is already talking about this topic. How can it be false? Besides, have you ever seen the monarch go to such lengths for a man? If he isn't her husband, then what else can it be? Emoli Shang ripped one of the notices from the wall and eyed the wording for any clue. However, the murderous aura oozing out from the rear had swiftly broken his focus. Yin, are you okay? He asks with a note of worry. Inhaling deeply to calm her rage, Bai Yin slowly formed a smirk at the audacity of these people. So that husband of the monarch's is Deed Song? It looks like another self-centered woman, who only knows how to steal another woman's husband. I've seen enough to know what's going on by this point. It looks like I won't need to head into the endless forest anymore. Shang, let's go. Bai Yin turns away after giving another glance at the poster. Emoli Shang didn't object and followed along. He doesn't know why, but his companion's aura made him quite nervous and antsy despite not being the target of her ire. From what I know about Di Tsong, he can't possibly marry another woman. I know. Bai Yin dismisses the notion with a nod. And I also understand that no one can force my husband to do anything if he's unwilling to. Emily Shang was stunned. He didn't expect Bai Yin to trust that man so much. Encounter 1. Yin Yin, where are we going to find Di Tsong now? Emily Shang groaned and asked. We wait. Bai Yin narrowed her eyes and to reveal a cold glint from within. News will come if those people do find Di Tsong. There is bound to be a sensation at the Endless City, and by then we only need to follow those people. And, she pauses to look up to the sky, I lost contact with Di Tsong's after our bond shattered. The cause must be related to that monarch. She dares to hurt my husband, then she is going to pay the price. I'll accompany you. Emily Shang's expression was firm and unwavering. Whatever she's going to do, he'll stay with her. Let's find a place to rest, and then we'll search for more clues. Bai Yan's gaze lands on an inn not far away. Let's go. Sunset. The afterglow of the setting sun envelopes the entire valley here, giving it a calm and tranquil sensation for the man sitting next to the ancient tree. His face was incredibly seductive under that shining luster. Yenna, suddenly, he shot his eyes open and rubbed that temple in pain. I still can't remember. I can't think of anything. How could I have forgotten her? She is the love of my life. The man slowly stood up and staggered forward using the tree trunk as support. I can't remember you, but I know. I will definitely find you. Even if it takes me to the end of the world. I will find you through heaven and hell. As long as he could meet her again, Di Tsong was confident he could remember everything. Therefore he won't give up on the search. The man's footsteps moved with weight in them, going deeper and deeper into this valley, until that figure disappeared from view. Bai Yin had been recuperating her energy inside the room, when a noisy sound from the first floor caught her attention. Here comes the monarch. It really is the monarch. She's finally visiting the city again. Hey, do you think the monarch is more beautiful again? I can't get it past me, but she's absolutely dazzling today. I guess someone must have found the whereabouts of her husband. That's why she's out and about. Don't mention it to me. Just thinking about that scumbag is making my mood foul. Such a wonderful woman like our monarch deserves better. Why is the world so unfair? Monarch. Bai Yin narrowed her eyes into a slit as she got up from the bed. Then walking over to the window, she peered out to the street where everything was occurring. There are countless maids dressed in an emerald green color, following a single woman. This woman in white was of course the monarch in question, and her aura was beautiful and graceful to look at with the minor defect of being too cold on the face. But even so, there are no lacking of men screaming in joy at her entry. Encounter 2. It's unsure if Monarch Willow had sensed something, but the woman stopped and fixed her sight on the inn's open window. Their gazes met, and caused a strange and uncomfortable stir within the monarch's heart. Monarch, what happened? One of the maids saw her mistress's strangeness, and asked from one side. Flickering with coldness in those eyes, Willow withdrew her gaze and dismissed the discomfort. It's nothing. Let's keep walking. I don't know if it's my delusion, but why do I find that woman familiar? It can't be. Is she here? Willow's expression instantly got ugly over that idea. No, it can't be her. There's no way that woman can come to the Hell Domain. If she really did, she would have died under the obstacles I set beforehand. Yes, I'm just overthinking this. It's impossible. Inhaling deeply to calm her nerve, Willow casts one final glance at the window, to find it already closed with the curtain. Yin Yin. Bai Yin had just withdrawn her gaze from the street, when a knocking hit her door. Following another glance at the window, she turns and decides to open the door instead. Once unlocked, she got welcomed by the expected baby face of the young teen standing at the doorway. What's the matter, Shang Shang? I just wanted to see you. Emily Shang's smile gradually grew more significant as his pupils landed on the open window behind the demon queen. Yin Yin, I just saw the monarch of the Hell Domain outside. I think. She already knows where Ditsang is. Bai Yin slightly narrowed her eyes. Shang is likely correct. That monarch wouldn't have left her abode unless there's news about Ditsang. However, it will become too obvious if we follow her too tightly. Once discovered, things will only get more complicated. I know, it's fine, we will wait here for now. No matter what happens, it will spread to the city. Afterward, we only need to go to Ditsang. Bai Yin smiled shallowly. In addition, I want to ask you to keep a close eye on the situation of this endless city. Once there is movement, come tell me. Okay. Emily Shang didn't resist the idea, and happily obliged the request. I will tell you the second I learn of anything new, so don't worry. Nothing will escape my ear. Bai Yin didn't doubt her friend's ability, and lazily stretched her arms with a yawn. Then I'll leave things to you while I rest. Emily Shang seems to have something else he wanted to speak about, but stopped right there. In his mind, that could wait if the Demon Queen needs to sleep. And as an attentive friend, he made sure to close the door behind himself when he went back downstairs. Emily Shang, I hope you really won't betray me. Bai Yin stood inside the room in silence as she gazed at the closed door. She was deliberating whether to enact some insurance on this plan, since she knew the teen was hiding something from herself. In the end, she jumped out of the window and onto the street for where Willow had gone. Encounter 3. Inside a secluded valley, Willow and her confidants were standing atop an enormous boulder awaiting news from the scouts. Are you sure that someone has seen Ditsang in this place? A beautiful maid stepped forward, slowly spoke. Monarch, that person said he couldn't be wrong. He saw Ditsang walk into this valley with his own eyes. Good. Monarch Willow narrowed her eyes in and snickered a sneer. No matter where you go, Ditsang, I will have you. I wasn't able to have your heart in the past, but not anymore. This time around, you are mine and mine alone. She had already made Ditsang lose all his memories, so it's just a matter of time before she gets her way. Go in separate directions to find him. No one is allowed to disturb him upon discovery. Immediately return and inform me. Although he doesn't remember, his strength remains and none of you are his opponent. Willow's expression remains cold and harsh, but there's an undeniable delight in those eyes. This was a precaution the monarch had to take. During their first encounter, she only made the Demon King unconscious after she trapped him. If the situation were anything else, she wouldn't hold a candle against that man. Yes, monarch. The maids exchanged an understanding look between themselves and scattered. Xiao Yin, am I not beautiful enough? She murmurs and asks her confidant. The maid known as Xiao Yin stood at a respectful distance and bowed her head. Monarch, your beauty is second to none in the domain. How can you think otherwise? Willow smiled bitterly and tickled her lips sarcastically. Then why won't he ever look at me? 10,000 years ago it was the same. He won't even greet me when I'm the only one near him. Do you know why I despise men with multiple wives? Xiao Yin the maid didn't disturb her mistress, only standing there quietly to listen to the story. Because that man once said he will only marry one woman in his life. Willow gently lowered her eyes to let the gloom hover overhead. Back then, my father wanted to marry me to him. Originally I disagreed and didn't want to, but my heart fell for him in the end. Then raising her head to meet the open sky, a range of old memories and emotions resurfaced, due to the experience from 10,000 years ago. In those days, us females were nothing but objects used by the opposite sex to vent their sexual desires. We were tools and I was no different. My father wanted to marry me to a man I never met or liked, but I resisted and failed. Then I finally met him on that fateful day. One glance, that's all it took for my heart to fall for him. Encounter 5. Hate you? Chewy God, why should I hate you? I have no love for you, so why would there be hate? Instead, I want to thank you. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have found Ditsang and achieved the positive results we did. The man's stoic body stiffened into a rigid block. He would rather not hear that if possible. Hate meant they still had some sort of connection. Without that, what else did he have left? Nothing, that's what. There's nothing left for him. Bitterness spread from within Chewy God's mouth. leaving him pained and hurt to the depths of his heart. Yenner, if I hadn't given up on you for the world, would you have become my wife? No. Bai Yin spelled this out in no uncertain terms to squash that idea. I would never have married you. Before, I was dependent on you and nothing more. That's not love. Love is what Di Tsung and I have. He gave me happiness. He gave me his all. That is why I chose him. We share our all and nothing less. Showing a faint smile, Chui God expected this, but that didn't mean it wouldn't hurt. I thought as much. You asked me before on why Chui Feng looked so similar to me, did you not? I can tell you. Bai Yin narrowed her eyes and locked onto that fairy-like face with a blank expression. So it's true he's related to you? Yes, said the man with a shallow smile that brought a breeze to those who saw him. He is the person I cultivated with my essence and soul. I couldn't leave the celestial realm at the time, so I sent him into the reincarnation cycle to find you. Unfortunately, I can never compare to him despite being his creator. That's right. His clone could stand by Bai Yan's side, while he couldn't do at their lowest. In that respect, Chui God was more of a failure than anyone in this world. Bai Yin clenched her fists into a ball as her breathing grew heavy. Then I want to ask another question. If no one helps Yifeng, will anything happen to his body? Nothing will happen. Chui God shakes his head indifferently. He is a complete person with his own thoughts. He may have been a clone of me from the beginning, but that's not true anymore. Whatever he does is his own choice. That's the result of him being reincarnated. However, part of my character remains with him. That is why he is destined to live his life alone. Bai Yan's heart shuddered over what the guy meant. Then closing her eyes, a tinge of pain swirled within the demon queen's heart. Yifeng is doomed to live a life of solitude? Why is fate so unfair? You're in pain. Chui God didn't miss the change in her demeanor. Chui Feng is right, he and I. We're not the same. Not only did he make a different choice, his position in your heart. I am far worse than him. You will at least feel hurt when he's in trouble. At the end of the day, he not only lost to Di Tsung, but also to another clone he himself created. Bai Yin lowered her head as the sadness gripped her soul. He originally didn't need to carry so much baggage. It was you who created him and gave him hope at a new life. Yet it's also you who doomed him to a life of solitude. Indifferent and undazed, Chui God didn't show any guilt. This is his destiny. Encounter 6. Fate? Bai Yin sneered as she squinted her eyes slightly. Chui God, he only has such a fate because of your doing. Even if you were the one who created him, it doesn't give you the right to decide his future. He has a soul of his own. He's different from you. Because of your selfishness imparting half of your love over. He's now in a situation where he cannot find love. It's unfair to him. Startled by the outrage, Chui God became quiet when facing that cold and lecturing voice. Moreover, your feelings are nothing more than baggage to me. I don't need them. A viciousness filled Bai Yan's voice. From now on, do not follow me anymore. I don't want to see you. Do not follow me anymore. I don't want to see you. Those words were piercing, stabbing him in the heart like swords against a billboard. For a while that stoic and enchanting figure of his appeared so lonely that it hurt. So that's it. What's there to hate if she never had any attachment left for me to begin with? Chui God did not directly slay Azure Dragon and the other 3 sacred beasts in the past, but they did die because he participated in that war. Therefore, it's no wonder she would treat him this way. I still remember the first time I met you in this life. Xiachen was lying in a pool of his own blood, and you were pleading to me to save him along with breaking the bond you and Di Tsung shared. Chui God's indifferent expression fell into a trance like he's longing for the past again. At that time, I thought I would still have a chance as long as you didn't know anything. The second time we met, I helped Xiachen recover, and you hugged me excitedly for it. He faintly forms a smile that carries a hint of bittersweet flavor. That hug was what I waited for through the ages. But I forgot. As long as you set foot into the celestial realm, you are bound to remember everything. In the end, I will still not be able to stand by your side. If in a previous life I chose you instead of the world, you would have been my wife for sure. Di Tsung wouldn't have had the chance. and you wouldn't have recognized your heart for him. Like a fairy, Chewy God slowly stepped towards Bai Yin, his white hair fluttering against the breeze, to give him a picturesque image. Yenner, I really want to be selfish just this once and snatch you away with these hands. But I also know you will never fall in love with me. I can't bear to hurt you. He raises his hand to gently stroke the woman's head. This gesture was something he often did a millennium ago. Back then, the young little girl often smiled at him and snuggled that head in his arms like a docile kitty looking for comfort. But now, seeing that his hand was about to touch her hair, Bai Yin subconsciously turned away and dodged the gesture. For a long time, Chewy Gods froze there, his hand hanging in the air like a lost soul unsure of what to do. In the end, he sighed and dropped his foolish act. Yenner, all I hope for is your happiness now, that's all I need. Bai Yin smiled over that remark, but her smile wasn't for him. As long as Ditsong is by my side, then I will be very happy. Chewy God's thin lips stammered for a response. However, he couldn't come up with a good reply to that sentence. In the end, he changes the topic because it hurts. I came to you this time because I have something to warn you about. Be careful of that Emoli Shang. His indifferent voice drifted like the wind into Bai Yan's ears, which caused the demon queen to furrow her brow slightly. Ditsong's whereabout 1. You probably also noticed the problem with that guy. Otherwise, you wouldn't have come out alone without him. Chewy God's gaze fell on Bai Yan's body, his voice sounding indifferent as usual, but with frustration in the undertone. It's my business, and it has nothing to do with you. Bai Yin took all her attention back and waved the warning off. The man felt hurt at being dismissed like a stranger. Yenner, do I not even have the qualifications to be a friend anymore? If I didn't remember anything, perhaps. I won't do this. Bai Yan's eyes contained a cold glow. Chewy God, that nightmarish loop I experienced allowed me to remember everything. Although I don't hate you, but how do you expect me to forgive you? How do you expect me to forgive you? Chewy God's heart felt like it was being sliced by a knife into multiple pieces, causing him to wrinkle up that face into a frown. He was just about to continue saying something when Bai Yin shuts him down by turning away. I don't have anything left to say to you. Don't appear before me again in this life. You go your way and I go my way. I hope we never meet again. After throwing down these words, Bai Yan's figure immediately flew off in pursuit of Monarch Willow. Depressing and hollow, the man stood alone under the wilting tree as the dead leaves blew around in the background. He couldn't move, not after that last sentence he's just heard. The valley here had a lot of fog, giving it a surreal atmosphere that one would expect of an area untouched by humanity. Right now, Ditsong's body was sitting up against a tree while he made a pained face, due to the missing memory in his head. He's trying so hard to remember, but all that came of his efforts were the fleeting contour of a beautiful face that he couldn't make out. Aside from that, there's only a stinging pain rubbing against his temple. Are you okay? It's then a delicate voice came from the front and caused the Demon King to wrinkle his face. Mo Xang Yan's heart got filled with joy after finding Ditsong in this spot. She's overheard her Shifu coming here with news of this man, and came of her own volition. Just that the girl never expected to be so lucky, and hit the jackpot. See, despite forgetting everything, you still remember the name Yenner, and as it so happens, I am also called Yenner by those close to me. This is fate, do you understand? There are so many people looking for you right now, yet it's I who found you. That means something. Mo Xang Yan's demeanor had transformed into an innocent maiden that had just met her crush. Scram! You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.